All right,
I
what's
always
up,
love
everybody?
that.
Sorry, what?
I always love that song. It's probably one of my favorite ones on YouTube at the moment.
Have you listened to the whole thing?
Yeah, and it was honestly awesome. Like I've usually listened to the karaoke one, the karaoke version to see if I could even find it on YouTube. And I found one, and it still had some of the lyrics in it, but still fucking awesome.
Yeah,
If you hear any
I mean, it
panting in the
just has
background,
that.
that's just my dog.
Okay,
All right.
yeah, just that song has a bit of a build up to it, and it's my personal favorite Styx song. Styx. Oh, damn it. Cooperate with me, YouTube. I want to see what the chat looks like now.
I'll monitor the chat.
Okay.
Justin Man is in the chat. Sup, Justin
Ah,
Man.
how you doing, Joseph man?
That
Okay.
stream where JJ was saying weird shit and where you and I were in the stream. Oh, I was dead of laughter. I think like the reason I laughed that hard in that stream was because the thumbnail of the stream had a funny face of me I was making. So I hadn't laughed that hard since the whole fried chicken and watermelon joke.
Yeah, what was it that you were laughing that stream, by the way?
That no, it was
That
because
made
the thumbnail of the stream had me making a funny face and I was dead. Oh, I
had
would have
you
died.
making a funny face?
Yeah, wait, what?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
had who
making
making a funny face?
yeah, I was. It showed me making a funny face. Like I didn't intentionally do it. It's just
Oh,
yeah, random capture of the thumbnail, and a piece of me would have died inside had that been if that thumbnail would have stayed.
all right. So now we know. All
Yes.
right. So anyway, how's everybody doing? We are live with my good friend and ally, S-Man Speaks, and we was wanting to talk about like we was gonna probably do this earlier, like during the last Jozo live. But the thing is that I joined that one too late. But now finally, we are going to review each other's debates. Try and clean up the aftermath of S-Man versus Owen Macdonald, um, and finally review my debate with him, maybe. And
Yeah.
then we're also going to talk about religion a little bit as well, as S-Man kind of touched on that, like the last 4 minutes of the last Joe's Alive.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start off with my third debate. This was about the ethics of punching Nazis. At near the end, I actually ended up agreeing with him that yeah, I can kind of see why you'd punch Nazis. The one concern I think Owen would not have been able to refute me on, or at least he wouldn't be able to explain himself on, is how do we identify a Nazi? What I mean, obviously, if they're wearing brown shirts and they're doing the Nazi salute, yeah, you'd probably be correct. Um, and the simple fact is, uh,
Talking about religion is what I'm waiting for. Owen Macdonald must be hard to talk to when he has over 1,000 food chains in America.
oh god. Anyway, oh,
Yeah, I did not watch the Ethics of Punching Nazis video,
oh,
honestly, because I kind of almost find that like I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit arrogant in this, but I almost feel like that's a waste of time subject to be talking about. I mean, I
after
know there are
yeah,
people who obviously think that's okay, but it's just a simple solution to me. I mean, just don't punch people who you disagree with, because if you do a result of violence when they haven't done anything violent to you yet, then that kind of shows desperation on your part. Like you have no
yeah,
clever comebacks or arguments to refute his arguments with.
yeah, and
But
I
Owen
pointed
doesn't do
out,
that.
yeah, and he doesn't like terrorism yet. When you think about the definition of terrorism, punching Nazis could be a sign of terrorism if we go by the definition of terrorism. And it's like two wrongs doesn't make a right, bud. You know, if we're gonna go down this line of how, yes, I do consider the KKK to be terrorists, Nazis too, but does that mean you should engage in terrorism yourself? No. Yet he supports groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And
Oh, so he was all for the terrorism that happened in Hamburg, right? Hamburg, Germany?
I believe where?
Hamburg, Germany. Yeah, heard of that shit that went down, right?
I think I have. I've been honestly I've been kind of burnt out on foreign stuff, but I think maybe not. I don't want to like attribute motive to him, but
Okay.
yeah, but
Maybe he didn't even hear of that, but I saw Sargon of
yeah.
Akkad's video covering that, and Andy Worski as well. And it was just an utter war zone in Hamburg by the time that Antifa got like halfway through that thing. It was police and Antifa fighting against each other. Like, I don't think many people died at all. Like, there were a few cops injured, but that was all that I heard of. Honestly, I think that in that kind of a circumstance, when they were burning down buildings, like setting almost the entire city on fire, that I think the police probably would have been mostly justified if they had actually resulted to killing some people. Like,
Yeah.
it does almost look like a literal declaration of war from Antifa to the country of Germany.
Yeah. I mean, look, I can understand protesting police violence. That's fine. But at the end of the day, there's a line between just protesting and being a terrorist and a criminal. In my opinion, if you're trashing someone's store, you deserve to be shot. Like if someone's trashing my store and there's a difference between a protester and a crook. And if they're just trashing my store, they'd be shot. I think that if you block the road and someone runs you down, you kind of deserved it. Now, I'm not saying, hey, everyone, let's just run down a bunch of protesters. It's just people don't care about your protest. They don't care about your message. They're just trying to get to their job, to their work. And if they run your ass over, I hope they'll go to prison for it. But I can't necessarily blame them because, I mean, you all right there?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just have a bad
Okay.
habit of chewing the inside of my cheeks.
Ah.
I'm weird.
Yeah.
I'm totally weird.
More normal than Owen, though, when he has to mumble under his breath about his opponent. And I really feel like I should have brought up those things in the third debate. But I also then look back and I was like, wait, what was the point of even debating the topic? Because I don't see it as like... I mean, I did agree with him that we shouldn't just cozy up to the Nazis. Asked him how do we recognize a Nazi and if he even knows what a Nazi is or a fascist or whatever that is. But that was just my thoughts on the third debate. For the fourth debate, which I never even
that
thought
was
there'd
an
be
utter shit show. I mean, just my blunt opinion. I mean, I didn't even.
I'm not gonna lie,
I
it was.
only watched like 40 minutes of it before I said, okay, this conversation is getting unproductive and is running itself in circles. I'm leaving. You boys have fun.
I'm not gonna lie, it was a shit show. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like to me, he kept accusing. The only reason I even accepted his debate offer for anyone is because he kept saying
personal with you.
Yeah, he kept accusing me of being a transphobe. I know I'm not, so he kept throwing the bullshit, you're a transphobe thing, and I was just getting tired of him getting with those. I consider him to just be spreading lies. You're transphobic. No, I'm not. You know, I mean, I think non-binary people hurt trans people more than any joke I tell, and I will admit it did get counterproductive at some point. Probably should have stayed around an hour. I think 2 hours would have been fine, but as I noticed, we're getting closer to 2.5. It was like
JJ says, "Sup guys, sup guys."
Yeah.
How you doing, JJ?
He's here. That's cool. The thing I've noticed with the fourth debate is not only did he It seemed like he was just putting personal attacks on me and spreading bullshit just to spread bullshit. And to me, he's like, I do consider him to be a trans rights activist, in my opinion. And he's the example of a radical not trans feminist, what the fuck? It's activist that just, if you don't agree with every single thing he says, you're a transphobic piece of shit and we need to change you from being a transphobic piece of shit. And my God, the stupidity levels. Like, I was able to defend some parts of the trans military ban. I was able to do that pretty well. And it seemed like he was just appealing to emotion. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. And it's like, all right.
I think that took place like the first 1.5 hours of the debate, the part that I didn't see.
I believe. Yeah, like at first we were talking about my alleged transphobia. And I pointed out that if I was such a transphobe, I wouldn't try to help transgender people when people are being dicks towards them. For instance,
it seemed to me
in the school,
It seemed to me that he was calling you a transphobe mostly because he found you to be ignorant on the subject. And my thought on that is that it's not a sign of fear or intolerance if you are just ignorant on a subject.
Yeah,
and really, if he thinks of you as a transphobe, even after all that crap that went down, fuck him. I mean, Why do you think that I said go tell him to eat fried chicken and watermelon after he says making trans jokes is transphobic? I mean, in other words, that comeback that I gave to you quoting him saying that was, fuck him. Who cares if he accuses us of bigotry? Like,
yeah,
really? I mean, there's no convincing him. He will always accuse people like us who disagree with him of being bigots.
Yeah, and to me, he hurts trans people by doing that instead of me telling a joke. The thing I noticed with, like, I pointed out to him that in my last year of junior high before I head off to high school, there's transgender teacher there. I'm just going to call her Miss Smith for the sake of the point, and people would leave notes on her door saying Mr. Smith, or they would publicly call. They're publicly
says, fuck him in the ass with fried chicken and watermelon. Making trans jokes is transphobic. The most idiotic comment from Owen Macdonald, says to Joseman. I agree, Joseman. Thank you for emphasizing on that.
Oh my God.
We're gonna have so much fun in this discussion, S-Man. We are gonna have so much fun.
Yep. Okay. And whenever people would publicly call her the teacher, I would just say, "Oh no, that's a woman," and they just roll their eyes and say whatever, and they just leave her alone. Or I have a friend who's transgender, a transgender guy. I just say, he just has a very androgynous or feminine look.
Hey. I don't think they allow chicken and watermelon at McDonald's. That's what Gentleman said.
Oh my God. We're gonna oh God, we're gonna go to hell.
JJ, shut the fuck up.
And I actually remember just after the fourth debate ended, he told me that a person who he debated in the past wanted to have a debate with me, which I don't really know who the guy is, and I don't know what his opinions on what anything are. So,
but then, guy's name, by chance, username invalid.
No, I've debated her twice in the past. Now, it's Joe Adams. He looks like.
No.
Yeah. He said a bunch of stupid shit in the chat. As for after the debate ended, I said I can't wait to see. I said to Owen, I can't wait to see your debate with if you have a debate with Zack on religion, and he says I don't know how he's gonna pull it off. Like, prove that there's a God.
What Owen said.
Yeah, just immediately after the debate ended, me and him started saying our goodbyes. And I brought that up, and he's like, I don't know how he would justify. He's not even saying it to be disrespectful. He's like, I don't know how he could make an argument proving that there's a God. And then I said, you know what? How about
Okay,
this?
well,
You
yeah,
know? Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
And
cover that
yeah.
subject on
Yeah.
whether or not to God is provable when we actually get to that
Yeah.
subject.
Yeah.
By the way,
And
JJ says he's a chicken fucker.
and then I brought up the idea of a 2-on-2 debate. It would be me and Owen versus you and JJ.
I'm still open to that, by the way. And maybe
Yeah.
Joseman can be like a debate moderator. What's
Oh yeah,
that?
that'd be
You up with
yeah.
that, Joseman?
Yeah, like an episode of Actually, I'm not sure if that even because we all live in different time zones. JJ and Joseman, they both live in the state of Oklahoma. They've said on their streams they have. You've said you live in the state of Kansas. I live in the state of Utah, and Owen
Yeah.
lives in England. Um, so I'm not sure if
Hey, Joseman,
you know.
Joseman and JJ are down for that. JJ down for debating, and Joseman says, I'd have fun moderating that. All right.
Yeah, so, and this is going to be a discussion, like, I think the full-on debate, that'd be interesting. Hell, I'd even when it's re-uploaded, I would let you use the thumbnail for it. It would be me
Use
and
the
Owen
what?
on the left side, like a thumbnail for the debate,
Oh.
you know. It'd be me and Owen on one side, you and JJ on the other, and Justin Man right in the middle with some thug-like glasses.
Yeah. I'm open to that debate, but I think it'd be best to give like a little bit of time in between you
Yeah.
guys' last debate and then, because it's come to the point that you are really pissed off at Owen because he kept on getting personal with you on Twitter. Like, you and him were having a full-out Twitter war before this debate.
That is true. I mean, the thing with him, and look, I do respect the guy in the sense that he was like, I do respect him because there's some things I completely agree with him on. But when he just lies and pretty much just attacks my character, then that's where the gloves are off. Like, I called him a tea-sipping son of a bitch on Twitter, and I don't regret it. You know, he attacks my soft drinks, I attack his tea and crumpets. I mean,
Joseman says he can't wait for 50 subs. Nor can I, Joseman.
I can't wait for 200. I'm 5 away. 5 away, man.
Twitter wars, an entertaining way to pass the time, says Joseman.
I was able to. I was up until 4 a.m. arguing with him one time over this fucking nonsense, and I was like, "It's 4 a.m." In my head, I was like, "Fuck you, Owen. I'm heading to bed. Just go back to drinking your crumpets and tea and eating your chicken and watermelon." I mean, he didn't understand that it is literally a joke. Making fun of stereotypes is awesome. Like, he could literally tell me to, like, he could tell either one of us to eat a cold mayonnaise mayo sandwich. That ringtone is awesome. Not gonna lie.
That's just my phone. Maybe I should like turn it down or something. Yeah, I'm gonna turn it down. Didn't you say that you were like a part Latino, by the way?
Yeah, I'm 3/4 white, and I am a quarter Hispanic, and if we want to get more specific, Mexican. My relatives were telling me about this. My father's 50% Hispanic, Mexican specifically. His mother, I think, is 100%. So as you go further down the line, it will go less and less and less.
Yeah, so really a more appropriate stereotype joke would be go eat a burrito, you spick.
Or KCD, I'm cool with either one. And anyway, there was I remember, and also it made me think about the first and second debate I had with him. The first one I will admit, was totally off the rails. We were mainly there to discuss feminism. We did for the most part. Then we got to some U.S. politics, capitalism, communism, and socialism. We were also discussing various other things, what caused the Trump election, just things like that. And it was a fun debate because I got to learn that he was an atheist. I knew me and him kept bringing up capitalism, like just the word, and just saying. Then he finally just came out and say that the only way we can achieve gender equality is through capitalism. I'm thinking, you use products of capitalism. Socialism didn't create them, so you can't use the. Well, they could have. Well, they didn't. You know, like
What was that? What you literally said, or think you should have
that's kind of
said?
what I am. That's kind of what I implied it the first time, and then on Twitter as well, because I use this thing to shoot some of my videos. Without capitalism, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't have this to shoot my ideas and then put them out there, just like he does. And then the second debate, it was just on one topic. It was like capital punishment, and I suggested we should bring up other topics just to just settle it once and for all. But it's like that should be for another time. And I was like, fair enough. So we discussed capital punishment, which the audio is just awful. I didn't have the right
On both
earbuds
ends?
for it. His end was fine. It's just these things on this touchpad tablet. This has a mic on it, so the audio. I don't know why, but on these, on a phone they're fine, but on this causes static. So I don't know how his ears weren't bleeding by the end of it. Bear, calm down, boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like watch your feminism debate. I think I'll totally skip the capital punishment debate. I mean, unless
I mean,
yeah, because you say the audio quality is crap, and
well, you can still understand what I'm saying. It's just not the most pleasant thing to listen to if you want really bad audio. My debate with another guy, it was the first debate I had with him that was on YouTube. It was about whether or not racial slurs are equivalent to an act of violence. That, I don't know why I even reposted it, because I can hardly hear myself. He kept cutting me off, and part of me was this close from saying, Lavelle, shut the fuck up, I am talking. You know, I mean, like, I don't tell my opponents to shut the fuck up, but God, a few times in the first and second debate with that other guy, I came pretty close to just telling him to shut his fucking mouth and to let me get my point across, and then he can continue. And honestly, I've never really had a round 3 or 4 with anyone except for Owen. I'm thinking about having a round 3 with username invalid about what atheism versus Buddhism, but I'll have to do some reading about Buddhism to
she's
see.
a Buddhist.
Yeah, lesbian Buddhist. She told me that in the first debate. I'm like, okay. I don't think it's really oxymoronic because I don't know enough about Buddhism to say that. I mean, if you were Muslim, yeah, I mean, they hate gay people, so you can make that point, but... And then this other chick I challenged to a debate, which she initially accepted, but I think might happen this month, maybe not. I believe she's a Christian as well, along with you and JJ. But it's not about Christianity, it's about whether or not there's more than 2 genders. It totally is, by the way. There are 2 genders, just 2 genders.
Okay.
And with the debate with Owen, I do remember that in the first debate, he said, I brought up how capital punishment unfairly impacts men. And then he says, well, I don't think it's a good system at all. I'm like, all right, this is probably something you and I could have a debate on later. Should have just had that squared off in the first one, because part of me wanted to beat Warcorpse's record for longest debate ever, because I don't know, it'd be just fun. And but to be fair, I mean, I was getting kind of tired and should have had on some earphones, because I looked back and the reverb was just, at some parts it's just like awful. But yeah, just had a notification at the time.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, so when it came down to the first, second, and third, and even the last debate, some of them seem more productive than others. The first one seemed very productive. We got a lot of things out of our system, talked about them, and then we called it a day with closing statements. I've always wanted to stream my own debates on my channel. I've done it like 3 times. But like a hangout stream, so when I can get I think I have around enough money to get that to happen, but I mean, just want to make sure I can find something where you can stream smoothly. So when it came to the last debate, I will admit it was a shit show. Yeah. One, I knew what I wanted to say. I just didn't know how exactly to put it in words. And I knew this was just going to be nothing more than just personal. Like, I do consider him just throwing transphobe around a lot against me. It's just nothing more than personal attacks. And I'm thinking, dude, you can call me that until. And he couldn't even define what transphobia was. And because of all this, oh, well, gender's a social construct. Prove it. I kept telling him to prove it, and he's like, I sent you an article. When? Like, this happened a while ago, so I'm not going to remember you doing it. So, and I've sent him citations to prove my points, and he just dismisses it as racist. He dismisses it as just bigoted bullshit. And he won't explain why. So, it's like either...
Because you're... He accuses you of being racist and bigoted because you told him to look back on your articles, or... Sorry, what?
Well, so for context, me and him were arguing about which race commits more crimes. I provided statistics from the government to say that blacks statistically commit more crimes. So, and that is just from the info I got. He just dismissed it as racist, but he wouldn't explain how it's racist or wrong. So he would just dismiss my evidence without even looking at it. So, and just on other things, so I'm thinking, dude, first of all, you reject any evidence I show you. I showed him the definition, which kind of backed up my points. And he just, he would just twist words out of context on those definitions to fit his narrative. And it was like, oh, God. I mean, fortunately, he doesn't cut me off as much as other people have. And fortunately, I'm more restrained, so I don't yell, Owen, shut the fuck up. I am talking. Stop cutting me off. I don't try to cut him off. But there were a few points where it's like, he would either be completely missing the point. It just seems like he was bringing emotion into it, you know? Yet he accuses me of doing the same thing, and how that's not supposed to happen, but he does the same thing. And it was just an utter shit show. And if I could redo the debate, let's say I could go back to when it actually started, would have had some notes prepared. Should probably do that in the next time if there ever is a next time with him.
I mean, the thing that I had with that debate was that there was next to no information provided. There was a lot of opinions, but I did not hear a whole lot of information or sources provided by either you or Owen. No offense, by the way.
Oh, on the last debate? Well, I think that this is more just purely opinion.
Phobia and your identity debate.
Debate. I did mention. I did actually mention in the stream. There was a few definite. Excuse me. There in the very first one, I did provide sources. In the second one, should go and do that because I do consider the Death Penalty Information Center to be a pretty useful source. The third one was purely opinion-based as to whether or not we think it's okay. I mean, I did bring up how it's against the law, so...
Yeah, I don't see exactly how you would bring in, like, statistics or anything on the ethics of punching Nazis, because that would be more like philosophical talk right there.
Yeah. As for the fourth debate, I did mention Merriam-Webster Dictionary, bring up the definition of sex. Like biological sex, and I did mention other definitions, even the Google definition. So I did cite him, but I should have left him in the description. But
I said, I hadn't watched the whole debate. So if I'm being inaccurate in saying that I did not hear information from you, I guess that doesn't mean much because I only listened to 40 minutes. But within the 40 minutes that I tuned in, I did not hear a whole lot of information. And then the thing that really frustrated the most about that debate was that you told Owen to provide sources, to provide information to back up his arguments as to why the gender binary is so stupid and why it's false. And then he said, no, go Google it. You lazy piece of crap. I mean, you're the one.
I called him Cenk Uygur. I said, what are you, Cenk Uygur? Like, if I were to claim... If I were to claim the Holocaust was a joke, if I were to claim that, oh, holy shit, he would say, provide your evidence or get the fuck out of here. I mean, like, I just didn't get it. It's like, one, okay, there's no evidence to prove a gender binary, but there's also no evidence to prove a gender spectrum. And
That's
at
kind
the
of
end of the
like
day,
the same thing as there's no evidence to prove a God and there's no evidence to disprove a God.
well, I believe the burden of proof would fall on the ones who claim that there is a God. Just like how the burden of proof is on him
Okay.
to prove, like, he kept saying there's no gender binary. Okay, can you prove it? Well, no, the burden of proof's on you. Well, I didn't make the initial claim, dude, so... Um... So
Yeah.
I just didn't, yeah, I just couldn't get where he was going with, he just kept whining and bitching about, like some of my solutions, like the bathroom ordeal. I said, okay, if, for example, if there's no bathrooms available, let's say there's no bathrooms available, or you don't want to get bitched at for going to the bathroom for which you identify with, which, um, and sure, in some areas I might be a bit strict, but I've thought about it, so I'm not just totally closed-minded. I said, go in the bushes. Cis people have to do it all the fucking time. They have to go in the bushes if there's no bathroom available. What's the deal with trans people? And he's like, that's so messed up. Go in the bushes, he said with that accent of his, and I'm like, yeah, go in the bushes. For guys, it's easier. For chicks, not so much, but you know.
They'll just have to squat
Yeah. Oh, okay, there's some people in the chat.
when they're doing
Go get
either
a...
one or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't mess with our American soda. Go get a burrito. S-Man speaks. I like quesadillas. JJ Skinner, who doesn't? True. Danny Quartz is cancer. I can't disagree with any of those statements whatsoever. The thing I've noticed with people when they talk about trans issues, it's like sometimes like emotion's fine, especially if you're the victim of a hate crime. But I do think that emotion can be counterproductive sometimes in an argument. Like if you're trying to argue that there's a God and you're starting to cry, it starts to seem like you're desperate to make the point. Or if you're trying to prove that the earth, like let's say you're trying to prove the earth is flat or gay marriage is bad, you know, I mean, if you bring in emotion, it's going to make you look like you're out of desperation, grasping for whatever you can to prove your point. And it's like it's just more professional to not it's more professional not to bring emotion into it.
Honestly, I do not see why somebody would cry trying to make the case for how how gay marriage is bad. Now, personally, I'm trying to find my compass as to whether it actually is a sin or not to commit a homosexual act.
Well, here's
what?
In my opinion, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, I would find it completely odd that it would be a sin to, for example, two people of the same sex to get married, but for people to say, but for people to find, for people to find something as trivial as two people of the same sex getting together, and some people, I'm not trying to make any generalizations, but some people, a keyword, don't have an issue with. Like people say, oh, the Bible condones murder, rape, and slavery, and things like that. That it condones that, but gay marriage is just completely taboo and everything like that. And I think that I value autonomy and freedom. Like even if I thought it was a sin, I would still let him get married. Well, I'm an atheist, but if I was religious and I thought it was a sin, I'd let him do it anyway because. Why would I care for two people?
Whether I think it's a sin or not doesn't affect my political, legal, and government stance on marriage in general, and that is just do not get involved with it at all. Now, personally, I really do hope that homosexual acts is not, I mean, homosexual lusts, any kind of lust, I cannot quote the verses for the life of me of where it actually says this, but lust in of itself is a sin. It doesn't matter if it's straight or homosexual, so that's a bit of a moot point. But the actual homosexual acts like sodomy or laying in bed with another man, I really do hope that those are not damnable sins. And I just want to make this quick comment. Like War Corpse responded to a video from some pastor, Baptist pastor, I guess, who said he was willing to go into an oven to prevent, these are not the exact words, but he was willing to go in an oven to prevent the legalization of gay marriage. And I'm thinking to myself, you're willing to give up your own life and your own rights to try and stop somebody else's rights? What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to some Christians, when they talk about marriage, I think it was actually pagans who defined marriage. I think I might be wrong, but I think it was pagans instead of Christians who defined marriage. And I don't see why God. Yeah, and honestly, it never made sense. Like, why would God? Like, to me, whether or not two people should get married, to me, is a total first world problem and doesn't hurt anybody. At the end of the day, I mean, if there is a God, it wouldn't make sense for him to get all pissy over the fact two people of the same sex love each other enough to get married. And I, for the most part, think the government shouldn't be involved in marriage. The only times I would say otherwise are like polygamy, as I think marriage is between just two people, and to prevent child marriage. The government should just back off and everything.
Yeah. We'll get more into that subject a little bit later, but I still haven't got done reviewing our last couple of debates.
Oh, okay.
And back to Owen Macdonald is saying that he shouldn't have to provide sources, that you can just Google the sources for yourself. I said to him in the chat, you're the one who is providing the claims. You're the one who has to back up the sources. And he turned that around and said, funny how you're holding me to a higher standard than your guy, S-Man Speaks. And the thing is, yeah, he was telling me to provide sources for a gender binary. The thing is, I wasn't making a claim that there is a gender binary in the chat at all. The only claim that I made was that it's not bigotry, it is not fear or hatred for somebody to be making tranny jokes. That was the only thing. I wasn't taking a definite stance on a gender binary or against a gender binary. But he was acting like I did, so he said, hey, you provide sources. And I said, I'm not the one making a point here. I'm not the one making a statement. So what is there for me to provide evidence for? My only point is that it's stupid for you to be saying, I don't have to provide sources. You can just Google it yourself.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I can expand here a little bit. You've heard of 43 Alley, correct?
I can't say I have.
Okay, he's an atheist YouTuber anyway. He goes making a video about realizing hell doesn't exist. And I'm going to make a response video to that. I've just been procrastinating on it. But he represents one of the Christians that came to him, like in his past, saying, you're going to hell. And they go into a conversation, and 43 Alley challenges the Christian to say, hey, provide sources, provide verses, cite a person of authority that says that hell does exist. And supposedly he quotes the Christian fella for saying, I don't have to. You can just look it up yourself.
I call that pulling a Cenk Uygur, where you just say Google it, and I mean, I think I even told Owen that he's pulling a Cenk Uygur, or Chunk Uygur if you want to call him that, and I mean,
really,
Google it.
It was just a smarmy cunt move of Owen Macdonald, and that really pissed me off.
It was intellectually lazy.
It really lost a good portion of respect. He lost a good portion of respect from me after saying that line. I mean, it's not like a lot of his videos are evidence-backed anyways, because it's just basically off-the-cuff rants that he's giving.
Yeah.
And sometimes he doesn't even cite, like, one of his videos, he's all like, as we can see, there are many communes of where workers can take over the businesses. And then, of course, you made in your response video, and of course, I made in my response video as well. Okay, cited some examples. Later on, he doesn't.
Yeah, like...
The guy doesn't seem that well researched. He's just going off of the opinions of other pundits, both YouTube and mainstream media.
Yeah, and honestly, I remember seeing someone make a response to Owen, and he basically took the words out of my mouth, because I was already planning on doing a response with the whole capitalism is unfair to the working class. And this part, I will admit, I stole from the other guys, where I take a screenshot of the description and kind of make a jab at Owen, like he ain't providing sources. And he's like, you just research it. And I'm like, made the claim. I was the one making the claim that they can or can't own the means of production. I don't think workers are any. I don't think workers are superior to the bosses. Without the bosses, they wouldn't have a job. I don't think workers would be able to really handle it. I think workers have only one job. They had one fucking job, and like that whole meme where they say you had one job. Basically, it's to do whatever their assigned position is to do. I think the bosses and the CEOs are the ones supposed to be running the business. I think CEOs put in 60 hours of work at least. I think. If I'm wrong, I'll issue correction. But and it was like. He says we can see examples, and it's like,
yeah,
your description doesn't say anything. The comment section doesn't say anything. He never says anything about it. Yet he's like, "Where's your evidence?" And I'm just thinking the intellectual laziness of it all was just pathetic. I mean, I did have respect for him in the first debate because he took my debate challenge offer. The second and then he kept cutting. His buddies were like, "Oh, S-Man kept cutting him off." Look what he did the third and fourth debate. May I interject? No, fuck you. I'm making a point. I need to get the point across, and you keep cutting me off. And honestly, it was so frustrating. I'm like, Owen, if I didn't have, God, it was so frustrating.
Sometimes I honestly ask my opposition, like, can I interject? Because I can understand why a person can ask, can I interject? Because there is a certain point that you said they want to respond to that specific point before that, like there's a whole bunch of other things said, and it just makes them lose their train of thought and exactly what they wanted to say.
Yeah.
But if they proceed on interjecting without the person's permission, then yeah, that's the point that it gets really rude.
Yeah, because he's like, okay, can we just respond to each other's points rather than you make like 4 or 5, like either one of us make 4 or 5 points? I'm like, yeah, that seems like it'd be fair enough. I mean, that's what he did in his second debate with Workhorse. They decided we're gonna make 1 point. We'll talk about it. We'll run out of things to say, and then when we do, we'll move on to the next thing. And they saved each other about 2.5, 3 hours of time they probably would have spent debating. Because of the first one, it was all over 4 hours, so they decided to try not to make it twice the length of a feature-length film. And the thing with it's like if he would have just said it like less than 5 times throughout the whole thing, I wouldn't have had a problem. But he kept going on and on and on, and it was like
JJ says Owen is a dumbass.
Can't disagree with that. Especially like I mentioned it in my Danny Court's response. I'm like, Sailor Star Protector was an idiot. She learned about her stupidity and her stupid logic, and
that's the cyan that's the cyan colored dyed haired fat girl, right?
Yes, yeah, that's her. Then you got Lavelle Robinson. I thought he was even dumber. He interrupts a lot more. He doesn't cite his sources. He just says, "Look it up." And I'm like, you're just like Owen, except Lavelle Robinson's fatter, has facial hair, and is bald. And
honestly, I'd probably say something along the lines of, I cannot remember the source right now. I mean, I have a hard time of keeping track of information myself. And really, there's no harm in just having some humility and saying, I can't remember the source. Sorry, I had to get back to you on it later.
Yeah, that's what me and him did in the first debate. I'm like, all right, I'm going to repost the debate, and I'm going to basically, when it's up, there will be sources in the description. And he's like, I'll check it out. I don't think he ever did. And that's fine. In his description, there were no sources. One person was whining and bitching about the length of it, like 3 hours and 42 minutes. Sure, I mean, but my babbling, when Owen was just rambling on and on and on about my women's rights, though. I mean, God. I mean, and the funniest thing is with his group is that they like to rag on me about my age. The fact I'm going to be 16 and what's today, the 12th?
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's 12. Like it's like, okay, I'm 15 years old. What does that matter? By their logic, anyone who's a feminist who's 15 years old, their age is suddenly an argument. So
yeah, and as we all know, bearing it makes response video to a lot of teenage feminists. So I guess the arguments provided by the people he responds to is not valid because of their age.
Which, if you really think about it, you're making a bad argument because of your age. Doesn't it sound like a bit of an ad hominem attack?
Yeah.
Like,
and
I mean,
honestly, I don't think your age is like a negative on your part. I mean, you're a freaking 15-year-old with almost 200 subs, and you're debating people constantly, making response videos. You're pretty gutsy for a teenager, S-man. So
yeah.
the fact that you're so young, but you're engaging in politics like this, that's a plus, not a negative on your part.
Yeah. Like,
that's
thanks,
my take
man.
on it.
The reason I even got into doing it is because I started hearing people constantly. By the time it was February of 2016, people were constantly crowing on my feminism, though. I'm oppressed, though. And it was like, I'm just looking at them like, how the fuck are you oppressed in the West? So, and then I started to make response videos to people. And there was one who literally, she stated she hated men. She said, I hate men. Men are awful. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be too easy.
She hates men because they all have dumped her and denied her a date.
I think that's not too far away from the truth there. And with people, it's like I'm thinking about actually making an open debate challenge to just about anybody on this site. Just to see if there's going to be any response. Like, if people want to have a debate, all they got to do is just make a response to me, link it to me, and that's fine. With people who respond to me, I've noticed that Danny's fan base has come to my videos because my video on him with Alexander Kingsfallon, my video on the two of my videos on the trans military ban, they all have 7 dislikes. Now, that could be a coincidence, but I'm willing to bet. And if I'm wrong, I'll shave my head. But I mean, like, and I have shaved my head before, so it ain't that big of a deal. That his fans came to my videos, and I noticed by the time I had made my response, it was like one dislike.
I want to read this comment in the chat very quickly. All feminists dye their hair like a faggot, says JJ.
Yeah, that sounds kind of true. I noticed that when I made my response video, he had 1 dislike to like 20 likes, and now it has 20 likes to 20 dislikes. And he has like more subscribers than me, so I assumed he'd get more likes than me. And he's like, I have 1/10 the number of videos this guy does. The reason I started making YouTube videos is because I went through a rough patch in 2015, and I made videos because I felt like it, and if anyone didn't like it, they could like my videos, and they would like freak out about my videos. They could just put a gun in their mouth for all I care. It's just a video sharing website. I'm sorry, but when people whine and complain about the I have so many videos, it's like, it doesn't matter. I mean, by their logic, he has 60,000 tweets on Twitter, and he has only a couple hundred followers. So
videos right now, and not even 50 subscribers.
I had
the video
200.
to subscribers ratio, I guess that takes away my credibility automatically.
In his eyes, apparently. He's like, I get more views than this guy. I'm like, okay, you can brag, you can have your ego dick stroked all you want, but what does this have to do with anything? I mean, the reason I have so many videos is because this is literally how I'd make a YouTube video. I would hold my phone like far away from me, like this, unfortunately. I'd hit the record button, I talk about what I wanted to talk about, get it out in like 2 or 3 minutes, stop recording, and upload it. That's all it took. I rarely would ever edit a video, as editing was just not something I'm interested in at the time. But now it's more fun with what I used to edit.
I love to edit, honestly.
Yeah.
As you saw my Cult of Dusty response video.
Dude, that video was amazing. I mean, the editing was awesome because I'm just like, it was pulled off pretty well, and I gotta say that was a pretty well put together video. I remember when I made a response to Owen on capitalism in video games. I was able to download a screen recorder, and I had his video playing, like, you know when you watch a YouTube video on your phone, you know. So I recorded it from there. I edited in the audio. I used something like OBS to record his video, to record his bucktooth ass. And then I edited it all
says,
together.
JJ says S-Man is a part of the Aryan Brotherhood because he shaves his head. Racist! Autistic, screeching, and rambling. I shave my head a lot of the time, too. Apparently, I'm a neo-Nazi white supremacist. And I make racist jokes.
I will never forget that.
I don't give a fuck.
I'm never gonna forget when you said fried chicken and watermelon. I did not expect you to say that, and when you said that, I was rolling around laughing my ass off.
You were.
Oh, it was awesome. I was dead of laughter.
Okay, but by the way, before we get too far off on this, if a person's subscriber to video ratio determines their credibility, well then apparently my name Josephine has all the credibility in the world because she doesn't even have 50 videos, yet she has almost 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and with people, it's like
she's real hot, ain't she?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, she's hot. The thing I've noticed with Danny Courts is he's bringing up my video to subscriber ratio, and it's like, dude, you have nearly 100 videos to 500 subscribers. Like, I mean, sure, you have more subscribers than videos, but barely. So why bring up my video and subscriber count? It's like, you've lost the argument when that's the strongest point you have against me. And
Owen Macdonald had a farm and sent all the male animals to the slaughterhouse.
Owen Macdonald had a farm. Owen Macdonald had a farm. E-I-E-I-O. And then I'm like, I mean, I remember when I just remember so much stupidity of his that when he would say certain things that were just really stupid, it's like it was so easy to debunk him. I mean, some things were just opinion-based, and I guess you could just call a difference of opinion, and there were some things where he was just factually wrong. And and he kept going on and on and on. Like, one reason I guess I'm hesitant to respond to his other videos is because the dude does not edit his videos at all. I mean...
Owen?
Yeah, I mean, like, sometimes I'll do an off-the-cuff rant because I'm just a lazy fucker and I don't want to edit sometimes. But this dude, all he does, in a nutshell, is he'll hold up his phone, he'll say his opinion, and the video is so shaky. It's so shaky. Like, it's like, dude, do you have problems with your arms or something? What I would do is just hold it like this, so it's not so shaky. But I don't know.
JJ, you are such a cringy joker. You know that. And on his farm, he fucked his animals. E-I-E-I-O.
Oh my god.
Get muted, motherfucker.
Should turn that into a GIF, by the way. Just have me say that, and then you'll have a subtitle on the screen. Get muted, motherfucker. And it was just awesome. I mean, like when you just wrote that and then you put it up to the screen, you're just like, you just hold it up to the screen. I mean, you're just like, get muted, motherfucker. Shouldn't have done that, but oh well. That was awesome. I had no problem with just saying that. But the thing,
so, you want to talk about Danny Courts?
Yeah, that was the part, and it's like, I think I could easily destroy him in a live debate. I don't think I'll ever have one with him because, he blocked me on Twitter, which was just funny. And the funniest thing is, he was whining and bitching about how some anti-feminist would make a sexual joke when responding to a young person on YouTube. He makes a sexual joke about me on Twitter, and I'm like, Danny, you look like a stereotypical man-child basement dweller. And it wouldn't surprise me if I'm sorry, but he looks like one of those people that get featured on the sex offender shuffle. And I'm like, dude, this is a bit of a hypocrisy. So, but yeah, that's just my thoughts on him. And I've actually noticed some of my videos recently have done extremely well. So, the joke's on him. Nobody listens to me. Well, 54,000 people would be needing to speak to you, Danny. I mean, if
Yeah, I
nobody
know.
listens to me,
I noticed there's
you know.
like an average for the amount of views, likes, and dislikes that a lot of channels would get. Like you get now I think you get like 12 likes to 0 dislikes, and then over 50 views on an average video. I get like a two to three likes, something like that, and
Yeah.
30 views in an average video and no dislikes. I mean, unless I'm making a very long kind of provocative video like the Cult of Dusty response video or my Kyle Kalinske response videos. And
Yeah.
and War Corpse, he would get like what 40 to 50 likes to 5 dislikes and 400 500 views
Yeah. He makes like a couple
on
bucks
an
off of
average
each video. Yeah, he makes a couple bucks off of each video, and if it weren't for YouTube fucking their own system over, I think he makes a couple. Like at one point, he would earn up to 10. He would be earning up from a couple thousand to even as much as $10,000 a year off YouTube. So,
Was that in the
with
golden age of YouTube back in 2015 to 2016?
yeah, near the end of 2016, before the adpocalypse really took a turn for the worst.
Yeah,
That was like
2017 will be remembered as the dark age of
of
YouTube,
YouTube. Yeah,
in my opinion.
I've joined VidMe just in case YouTube ever dies or goes belly up. So that's just me, of course. With the
I'll have to do that myself too.
Yeah, I've even gone to places like Vimeo and Dailymotion. I wouldn't post political content on Vimeo because I did that responding to some racist people, and they said and basically they struck me down for hate speech. I've been brought back on Vimeo, but I just posted an intro video, nothing else really. I guess I might post skits and short films there. I don't if I can be bothered to edit some of them, but um. The Joyce Sparkle BS rant did pretty well, along with the Riley Dennis gets false flagged video. They both did pretty well. 37 people liked the Joyce Sparkle BS rant. The little slideshow at the very beginning of the Joyce Sparkle bullshit rant, I thought it was funny. Looking back, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah, the only recent videos that have really done well for me was the response video to YouTube's more than a refugee video and that Superwoman video. And of course,
Yeah,
if you go back even further, there's my AJ Plus Once More illegal immigration video.
yeah,
But
I
yeah,
had fun
I'm
with
kind of
yeah.
surprised that my Superwoman on guns video hasn't done better. And honestly, I kind of want to attract more and more of the Superwoman tween fangirl base because
They're gonna get
it's really just a cesspool of like barely filled up cups. They're just waiting to be filled up with knowledge. And what better opportunity for you and me to like fill them up with the knowledge and the belief of liberty
yeah,
and
and the thing.
against Superwoman's stupidity. Sorry, what?
Yeah, no, you're fine. The thing I noticed with I remember how I got notified that her video was even up because I'm not subscribed to her. No bullshit. I don't know if you really watch his stuff. He made a video on her defending the religion of peace, and I'm thinking the religion of peace. It actually is a religion of peace. Is the pieces, and I'm like, I'm just
You punny bastard.
yep, and I'm just watching her video and I'm thinking, oh my god, this is so stupid. She just assumes that the people who comment on her videos are white male conservatives. I'm not sure if I would even fall in the category of conservative, but I don't think it's fair to generalize people like that. And I'm not entirely sure what views of mine gave anyone the impression that I'm libertarian. I'm not sure if I am. I'm not even sure, like, even if I'm not entirely sure, but I mean, if my views do fall with libertarianism, so be it. Because I definitely stand on the same ground with you with pro capitalism, pro gun rights, pro private property rights, anti SJW. I also am anti-authoritarian because I think authoritarianism is ridiculous and it could get fucked over pretty quickly, and anti-illegal immigration. I'm not sure if some of those are necessarily libertarian-esque views, but and it was fun responding to AJ Plus because it's one of those few videos where I actually was able to get off my fat ass, set up a camera, and use that to respond rather than my avatar. Um, and just things like that.
Because
And
it was so easy to respond to.
yeah, the longest video I ever made where I actually set up the camera multiple times, it was responding to this chick who was making she made videos about feminism and privilege and all this bullshit, and it was very easy to just go through her videos. She's made some videos on about abortion in Ireland, saying repeal the eighth, that pro-life is a lie or something like that. Maybe I don't know if you'd respond to it, but the thing.
Yeah, I'd probably be interested in response to this, considering abortion slash pro-life. The subject in general, I hold very passionately. So, what's the name of this chick again?
Playful Ghost. I am subscribed to her, so I'll just I'll link a video. I'm gonna well, as we're talking about this, I'm gonna go to my. I think I'm still subscribed to her. See if I can find it. LMNOP. Where is it? Okay, Playful Ghost. One word. Capital P, capital G. Okay, why I'm pro-choice. Repeal the eighth. It's 6 minutes. Then there's another video of hers that's 11 minutes. And I've responded to her twice with some of her videos.
Okay, I'm getting a whole lot of like a whole bunch of for fun videos and music videos type stuff.
I'm gonna send you an invite.
Okay, I think it's YouTube. Is this blue kind of thumb-looking ghost with blue
headphones on? Yeah. If you see a chick, she looks like
this
her most recent
channel
videos
doesn't have any content. What the fuck? Okay.
Go to the video section.
Never mind. Yeah.
Tell me the name of one of her last videos. Just so we know we're on the right page.
Busting autism myths. Hashtag Autistic Pride Day.
Yeah, she has only 2 videos. One's called Pro-Life is a Lie, You Don't Care If Women Die, and Why I'm Pro-Choice, hashtag Repeal the Eighth. I think I'm still pro-choice. I don't really honestly think we had a full fleshed out conversation about it. I felt like there were some points we wanted to talk about, but I felt like we were hesitant to. But that's just me.
I kind of almost think that you might be kind of on your way of converting to becoming a pro-lifer. Just my personal observation of it.
Yeah, like, to me, the thing is, I am torn. I get where some people come from, but I don't think banning it, I think there's more cons than pros, and I value autonomy. I value autonomy a whole lot, to be completely honest, because if we start restricting some things, and Owen had a point with in the pro-life versus pro-choice thing. If conception starts
with him.
Yes, with your debate with him, like, and I don't think you addressed the point, and I think there were some points he didn't address. You saying?
I made a response. I responded to that comment live on that debate.
Oh, I'm not sure. I didn't really see it, but okay. The thing was, and I watched most of it, and either I'm forgetting or I have no idea. If life starts at conception, how come he's not 20 years old? How come you're not 23 years old? And how come I'm not going to be turning 17 this year instead of 16? And
yeah, something like that. He was asking basically the question, why don't we celebrate conception days instead of birthdays? And I said, well, the biggest reason is because it is kind of hard to pinpoint the exact moment of when conception has begun. And so birth is easier to track down. And whatever you think about birthdays and conception days or whatever on the issue of abortion, I don't think that determines either way whether somebody's life is legitimate or not. I mean, it's basically like just a society, a social celebration is what birthday should not. The issue with birthdays should not determine the morality of valuing life, honestly.
The thing I was hoping you would bring up, I think you may have, and I'm just being forgetful, about, it was on the topic of I wanted you to bring up about the 13 weeks thing. I think you did. Like if there's
I did, but I did not mention 13 weeks. Instead, I mentioned 6 weeks. Because you remember that right after our first abortion discussion that I made that after review video,
oh yeah.
which was titled in a question, when do unborn babies produce brain waves? And
Oh yeah, I
I
remember
was
that.
saying that I need to rethink my position on that. And apparently finding out that it's going as early as 6 weeks after conception.
Because if that's true, then and also like if they feel pain, then how could one do it? Like I don't think I could ever perform an abortion. One, I don't know how to, and even if I wanted to, like I wouldn't want to because I mean, if the thing can feel pain, it's sentient. He wouldn't. I mean, why harm an like I know vegans bring up the sentient beings, but you could make the point there, and also to vegans, is abortion vegan? Well, maybe not, but um, I mean,
Perhaps. I don't know. I think that it would be, I mean, because all the people so far that have debated vegan gains and other vegans are a whole bunch of pro-choicers. I'm pretty sure that Bering is pro-choice. I know for certain Andy Worski is pro-choice. I honestly do not know Roaming Millennial's stance on that. Maybe she's a moderate all in all in that stance, because I know that she is all in all a Republican, I guess, because she used to intern for Paul Ryan. She stated in one of her videos, and also that guy T, when he debated OG Meeson on veganism, he's definitely a pro-choicer. He said it himself
yeah,
in that same debate.
yeah, and
But
the thing
a
yeah,
pro-life meat eater or an anti-abortion meat eater, that would be more accurate, I guess, versus a pro-choice vegan. That would be pretty interesting.
yeah, I don't know if vegan gains. I don't remember him ever saying that he is or isn't. But that's just me, of course. Like I've considered going vegan. I think the closest justification I have for eating meat is that animal doesn't have. I think some animals don't have a frontal lobe, and if a human didn't have a frontal lobe, you'd actually probably have to put them down. So, like, if I didn't have a frontal lobe, then I think death would be a better option than just being a vegetable. Which, for offensive jokes, how do you turn a fruit into a vegetable?
How?
AIDS.
Okay, I'm not so sure that I have enough
Yeah.
information to get that joke, but
It's what
okay.
they used to call gay people fruit, and if you're in a coma, they'd call you a vegetable.
Oh,
Oh God, this
okay.
reminds me of
So
yeah,
reading the
yeah.
chat, we're gonna get caught up a little bit extra caught up on this. You can't mute me. I have a massive cock, says JJ. Joseman says I made a video on male feminists. I liked the Joy Sparkle rant. JJ Skinner says illegal immigrants need to be shot. Joseman says or sent back to their country. JJ Skinner. He also says you're a libertarian, straight cis male. S man speaks. JJ Skinner then says to Joseman, they'll just try again if you do that, not to death necessarily. And
Oh,
honestly, I think that JJ Skinner is being kind of a little harsh in saying that they need to be shot.
yeah. I
Maybe the
mean,
felons, but I do not think every single illegal immigrant needs to be shot straight up. I mean,
yeah,
especially if we know for certain that they haven't really committed a felon in their native country.
yeah. One thing I noticed with your argument, and I agreed, but there's one concern if we just deport them immediately. Is that violating due process? Like, well, I don't think they're I think since they're not
Okay,
here
it
legally,
might be.
well, I think to be fair, like they don't have a right to an attorney, and I think this applies to only U.S. citizens. I'm probably wrong, but if it were to only apply to U.S. citizens, then I don't think that'd be against the Constitution. You can't see this dog at the moment, but
I'm pro-abortion. Children are annoying, says Joseman. Ha 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 ha. So freaking funny. JJ Skinner
this
says, I meant some, not all.
this doggo,
What?
this dog.
That's a fat dog. Your camera cut out, by the way.
Oh no, I just turned it off just because it'd be shitty quality if I just Um, shoot. I just turned it off so I could just set it back up. Just because it probably look
Okay.
really bad if it were to be all shaky. Ah, here he is. This is the reason why humanity should some of humanity is worth saving.
Because dogs.
Yes.
Joseman says, cool dog. JJ Skinner says, it's floofy.
Yep. His name is Bear. He's like 3 years old. He'll be 3.5 on the 20th. So it's a
Okay,
cute little
so
little one.
we
Yeah.
was talking a lot about my debate with Owen. I mean, I think we've already solidly covered your recent
Yeah.
debate with him. Like, I mainly wanted to talk about number 4, which is the one debate that I watched most of yours.
Yeah.
But it kind of looked like that you watched most, like 90% of it, if not all of the debate that I had with Owen, where we covered
Yeah.
4 different topics. I mean, most of your debates seem to focus on one single topic. I mean,
Yeah.
particularly this last one, when it was just talking about trans people and gender identity, which are kind of in
Well,
tangent with
well,
each other.
there's some categories of the topic. Like we discussed one. Well, we discussed whether or not I am transphobic, which I will admit it was kind of weird for me to suggest we should talk about whether or not I'm transphobic. But I thought we should just talk about the whole thing. So there's like about transphobia, whether or not there's more than two genders. I think it was just more than just transphobia. But I mean, I think there was transphobia, gender identity, the trans military ban, things like that.
Mhm.
Now, one thing I will admit is I should have taken notes. Should probably make a habit of doing that. Bear, calm down, boy. The one thing I noticed with
So
him, the one thing I noticed was his microphone was awful. It kept cutting out, but I was afraid to ask him to repeat the point because he would just get pissy with me. But then again, I should have just told him. Well, I can't. I don't really tell people to take a Midol in a live debate, but that's just me.
honestly, it's kind of hard for me to tell when he's getting pissy just because merely his voice is so wimpy. And that's not to say that all British voices are wimpy, but it's just his particular voice. It sounds so feminine and high and whatnot. Well, actually, I
Yeah,
won't say it sounds so high, but it just sounds naturally so childish.
yeah, and I remember like the reason I would tell jokes about like I told a joke once, and this was just to make fun of the women at the Women's March. I said because some trans rights activists thought the Women's March wasn't representing trans women, so I'm like, oh yes, the
JJ Skinner
whole
says, I sexually identify myself as a Dodge Charger with a 2-foot dick. God.
God, JJ, you're a gem. I remember making the joke that this soda can doesn't represent trans women, so it's transphobic. The reason I did that was because trans rights activists were saying we didn't feel represented at the Women's March. Well, I think the reason they wore vagina hats instead of penis hats is because they were trying to retaliate against Trump saying he would like to grab women by the pussy and everything. And I'm like, this is a first world problem. Representation, I think, for the most part, doesn't matter. Because there's so many more important things to worry about than whether or not you're being represented in a book or a movie or a TV show. It really doesn't fucking matter at the end of the day. And with Owen, the one thing... Bear, shut the fuck up, dude. I'm trying to talk to this guy. Anyway, sorry about that. I'll be right back. This fat furry bastard's not gonna stop whimpering. Hold on.
I need to use the restroom anyways. If I can mute myself. Okay, guys, tell him where I'm at if he goes wondering.
I didn't even hear what you just said, boy. I'm kidding.
Skinner then says to Joseman, they'll just try again if you do that, not to death necessarily. And honestly, I think that JJ Skinner is being kind of a little harsh in saying that they need to be.
Launch them into a cactus. What the fuck, dude? That was fucking funny. All right. I feel like since we're in the stream and JJ can't say any shit towards me, I think JJ was not brave for saying he has a small dick. He said he had a small dick in the stream. It's funny as fuck, by the way. He kept saying that he had a small dick, and I'm like, dude, nobody cares. And because JJ Skinner. I should just leave it like this the whole time. Doi, I'm JJ. JJ, you son of a bitch. Oh shit. Didn't mean to knock over that webcam though. The real JJ Skinner.
Alright. So, here's what I plan on doing. So, yeah. This channel is gonna basically be just whatever the heck I want to talk about. Most of the time it's gonna be random. I promise you that. Alright. I am the one, yes, I don't need a gun to get respect up on the street. Under the sun, the
What? What?
What the fuck were you doing, man? Somebody was a bit bored. Oh, damn it. Okay. 1 second, I have to mute myself again. Oh, man, if the mute button will pop up for me, damn it.
Oh my god, that was hilarious. Oh god damn it. I had to. Oh god damn it, that was awesome. Okay.
Okay, that was my dad calling. He just wanted to invite me to dinner, and I was all like, "Hey, this better be quick. I am in the middle of a." And he was all like, "Oh, don't tell me you're in the middle." Oh god, get a life, dude. That's what he.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here's what I was playing. The face you made. I lost it. I like to poke jabs at JJ a little bit, so I played a clip. Where he got into a fight with someone and he uploaded it to YouTube, and he gets knocked over and he starts screaming, and then they show an anime character screaming. Oh my god, I was dead.
So it's a video on his channel now.
If you search JJ Skinner, you get 3 channels of his. This one's on the real JJ Skinner. Oh my god. Remember when he said he had a small dick on one of the live streams? Here's a clip where he gets that used against him.
Got a small dick!
What the fuck, man? Do not play that for me again, please. Okay.
I was shaking from laughing so hard while playing that.
Oh,
Okay. God,
Anyway,
that was
let's-
yeah. All
that
right.
was pretty cancerous. Let's get intellectual here again, shall we? Okay, so
Okay. Oh my God, that was
So,
awesome.
we was talking about the abortion subject of my debate with
Yeah.
Owen. Like, what did you think of that all in all? Like,
Abortion.
wasn't-
Like the topic.
the discussion itself between me and Owen, or I guess I should say full frontal debate.
Yeah, like I could kind of take a side that I believe because autonomy. Now it's all women's rights though. That point was just to me honestly, it was a bitch move on his part. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, my women's rights though. He kept throwing that out. It's like first of all, quite frankly, I can get where he's going with. I believe autonomy is a good thing. Now, when it comes to the whole women's rights thing, it's like I can kind of see him having a point, but I think that there's nothing wrong with doing it. Like, if you get an abortion, I don't think you should be cast as a baby murderer and you should be thrown off to prison for it, or you should be shamed by the public for it because, I mean, it's always abortion. No matter what we do with it, it's going to be around. And I've heard some pro-lifers call the Supreme Court decision to legalize abortion as the what the hell would you call it? They compared it to the Holocaust because 60 million babies have been aborted since the legalization of abortion in the United States. And they bring up the definition of a Holocaust, which it's usually referred to the Jewish Holocaust, but it can apply to other contexts. I mean,
yeah, because well, okay, I do not know if people call it Holocaust, but
I've heard some people do
genocide
it.
is what people refer to the Native American genocide. When Christopher Columbus came over, and then white man started abusing red man.
Yeah. JJ says to me, "You fucking bitch," in the chat. I didn't upload it. The other two are fake. Like probably your claims you have a giant penis, JJ. Anyway, so with I guess you could technically call it a Holocaust, mass destruction, wanton slaughter, or destruction on a mass scale. Like if you light your lawn on fire, you could call it a grass holocaust. And I mean, like I've seen people use the definition and it actually would fit. But and people would say abortion isn't murder because it's legal. For instance, for instance, the Google definition: unlawful, premeditated killing of one human being by another. And since it would be so hard to pinpoint a date of when you were conceived, then why make the point the conception and that life starts at conception? I think people, for instance, when some religious pro-lifers bring up the Bible,
I'll admit that it is kind of a gray area. Like there is no black and white broad red line that people can definitely put on conception. Yeah. But that is the general belief amongst us pro-lifers, and that is what I have accepted as well, that life begins at conception, even though we cannot precisely pinpoint when it is.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just my thoughts there. All right. So if you're fine with it, I think we have probably because I don't have anything else to say about your debate with him. I think you did pretty much beat the hell out of him on capitalism and the
I don't know. For some reason, I mean, you think that I beat the shit out of him, but I think
based on argumentation,
I wasn't all that well prepared, honestly, and I think that was my weakest point in the debate, just in my own opinion.
Well, like, to be honest, I don't think you prepared all that well either. In my opinion, you won based on how you guys presented this, because at the end of the day, like, based on how you guys presented, how you guys went about it, I think you did have the upper hand on capitalism, transphobia, and jokes, or just bigotry and humor. Better readjust this webcam. Well,
yeah, and there was somebody like in the chat that very day, and I mentioned this in my why stolen labor is a stupid term video, that there was somebody in the chat that mentioned I agreed to have my labor stolen, because I was trying to make the point that it's not stolen labor because you agree upon it. But then he turns around my whole argument and says I agreed to have my labor stolen.
Oxymoronic.
Yeah, it's oxymoronic. I mean, how is it stolen if it's agreed upon? I mean, that's really what I should have brought up to Owen during that debate, to shut him up on the whole stolen labor term. Like, argue all you want for socialism, but it's not stolen labor for you to be agreeing upon employment.
Yeah, and the thing
me and him, I could not get that through his thick ass head.
A lot of people point out in his comment section that he has a very thin, long neck. Oh my god, I couldn't read most of the comments because I was in tears.
Are you talking about one of his videos or the comment section for the Owen versus Zack video?
Just the comments of some of his videos where Bering responded to him. Yeah, and oh my god, I was dead of laughter.
Okay.
Because any jokes made at his expense, I kind of find funny. I mean, if they're obviously racist, I won't find them funny, but you know, that's just me. And if you wonder why I'm wearing this fedora, is because as an evil, oppressive, mostly.
No. Fried chicken and watermelon. You totally laughed at that.
Because it's a stereotype, and it's obviously not a true. It's not true that every single person of a certain race eats just those certain things. And as an evil, oppressive, mostly white, cisgender, heterosexual male, if I were Christian, I'd be full oppressor. I mean, it's just funny how it's like he couldn't tell it was like he knew it was a joke. And he's like, that was a mediocre roast. I'm like, call it mediocre all you want, but oh my god, it was like you just took off your glove and you just bitch smacked him with that joke. Oh, good times, man. Good times.
Yeah. But I think that capitalism is where I did weaker on abortion. I was willing to go the entire debate on that. I mean, if you recall during the debate, I was all like, what? You want to stop right now? I was just getting started. Come on.
Yeah, and he was already going to run out of energy, and it was like, it would be kind of nice if he lived in the, it would be kind of cool if he lived in the United States, so he'd be able, so he wouldn't have to get tired. He'd probably get tired of having his points challenged, and that's a joke, Owen. And that there'd be just so the debate could go smoother. But anyway,
so
I think
the first portion of the debate, like bigotry jokes. What do you think about that?
I think it honestly is a joke, and humor is of course subjective. So I'm not trying to argue to him. Oh, you should just find it funny, or like it is just a joke. I make fun of everyone. For instance, I used to make fun of Riley Dennis whenever she would go on rants. I would make a joke that I didn't want to see her. Oh God, I don't want to have to see her shake her Adam's apple in front of a camera for 5 or 10 minutes. So that's why I don't really respond to her anymore.
I just find his voice cringy entirely. And not to mention the words that he speaks, the arguments he makes me makes 2 of my brain cells burn out every viewing. Which is why I did not respond to the entire "poor people deserve nice things" video.
Honestly, he was so. And the reason I use he is because if Riley has a penis still, then you're not a woman. Women do not have penises. They simply don't.
You keep on referring to Justin as she though, like
I just do it just so
like you know.
I'm like I just do
certain that. Sorry, what?
I just do it just so Owen will shut the hell up because I think he's just white knighting for Riley. I think Riley changed his name legally from Justin to Riley, so that's his legal name. The thing is, the reason I just use she instead of he for Riley is just so Owen can stop spurging out over it. I really think wouldn't surprise me if he would like to just Oh God.
You know, you should just keep on referring to Riley as a dude, just so to constantly annoy Owen. Maybe it'll get him off your back eventually. Like, Desmond, I am so fucking pissed at you for not giving Riley his her pronoun. I'm done with you. Fuck you, you American.
Oh my God. It wouldn't surprise me if he wants to caress Riley's Adam's apple.
Oh man, that's the next new sexual fetish. What have you invented, Skylar?
I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. But it wouldn't surprise me if he wants to, like, there's certain memes on the internet where there's this dude, I can't remember what, some anime meme where this dude's lying on a bed, he's holding a picture, and then everyone photoshops someone's face onto that guy, and then in the picture they photoshop someone there. That's Owen with Riley, and probably Milo Stewart. He wants to caress Milo's stupid-looking hairstyle, and he wants to hold Riley's Adam's apple. That's why Riley got so popular. I think that's why Riley got so popular is because his Adam's apple.
Face, man.
No, I can't keep a straight face when I'm trying to say these things. The thing is,
you keep on laughing whenever I go personal and laughter myself.
Well, your laugh's awesome, and it's true though. I mean, with Riley, the reason Riley got so popular is because his Adam's apple was able to attract, because it has such a gravitational pull, he was able to attract himself an audience. You have no idea how long I've been wanting to say that, but oh God.
Tweet that to Owen. Tweet it to Owen. I dare you.
You know what? I should take him off on that thing. Like I actually apologized to Riley for assuming that his transition was bullshit. He's like, that's not a good enough apology. And I'm like, why should I apologize to a narcissistic authoritarian who thinks that somehow he's the arbiter of what's a good apology and what's not? And if Owen doesn't think I'm sincere about it, fuck him.
Yeah.
I honestly was just.
That's
it was
how
just,
I feel about him regarding jokes and bigotry. Just fuck him. The conclusion that I came to after that section of the debate is just that social justice warriors and anti-social justice warriors will just have to agree to disagree on that. Like, we'll not be able to convince each other. I mean, me and Owen will not be able to convince each other on that jokes do not mean squat. A joke based on an ethnic or gender or racial stereotype is not the equivalent of a punch in the face. But apparently Owen will forever think that. And I just came to the conclusion about 30 minutes after we got started, 30 minutes, however long it was, that, okay, Owen, this is getting kind of circular. Maybe we should just move on. Yeah, and the thing is, like, I could tell this joke, and he'd probably call me a sexist for telling the joke. Like, how can you tell which nurse at a hospital is the head nurse? Check for which one of their knees is the dirtiest or something like that. And I mean, like, it's a stereotype, and obviously it's not true, but it's like I don't see the need for him to just spurg out over it. But oh my God, it was funny. Like, I remember when I responded to his video about transphobia and humor. I actually did. I did it. That was the first face cam video I did, where I just sit in the corner, just looking at his stupidity. And if you see that video, you can see me in the corner just laughing my ass off at certain points, because he brings up War Corpse and he says, "I'll put bleach in my eyes." And I'm just dying in the corner. I'm looking like I'm having an aneurysm, and here he is, just, oh God. And just to wrap up on this point, here's a little joke at his expense. I don't know if you've seen my very first response to him, but if you watch enough of it, really. He makes a funny face, and I showed it to a friend to see what she thought of it, and she's like, he looks like he had an aneurysm and an orgasm at the same time. And I'm like, I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, I started laughing so hard. I ended up like when you laugh so hard you snort or something. That was the end result.
Oh my god, it was just too much. Like that was the first time I ever laughed in a YouTube video ever, and it was just completely cringeworthy. My laugh. Um, if people don't know what I'm talking about, uh, this is Owen when he reacts to supposed transphobia. That
Oh,
is
God.
that's what an aneurysm and an orgasm looks like at the same time. Oh, I don't feel bad for this. I mean, look. I mean, a dentist, bro. Have you heard of one? Oh God, but that was honestly. Oh.
I don't think he's ever been to a dentist, considering his teeth, the condition of his teeth.
Oh God. One time I looked him up on Facebook once just to see if because I think I may have posted a link to a video of his just to be like, this is fucking stupid. My link to his video is still there. My post about his video, but then I noticed it showed up a post of his, so I just looked at his Facebook and I'm like, all right, he's bashing on conservatives. All right. Then I saw he posted about our first debate, which I don't get. He was trying to make a joke or something. I just didn't get what the joke was. Then he posted a link to a video I made responding to him, and the comments were like, "Oh, he just used a snapshot to debunk your arguments." It's like, you guys didn't even watch it. You guys were just stupid. Christy Saggy Tits Winners couldn't refute anything I said, so that's just her problem.
Christy Saggy Tits.
I'm sorry, but any straight guy that's into her, they have to have a weird kink. They have to.
Either that, or they're just that desperate for pussy.
Probably.
Okay, so on the issue of feminism, when I debated Owen, like we only briefly touched on that. It wasn't as flushed out as the first three subjects that we talked about. But I honestly think that I kind of handled him pretty well. I mean, I did not cite the exact source that I came up with this. I mean, it's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, obviously, for at least here in America, that men do work more than women. The labor force participation is higher for men than it is for women, and particularly in manufacturing. Like, that is where the big bucks is. Like a steel worker, a welder, a petroleum, a platformer, an oil platform worker, out to sea. That is where all the big bucks is. And sewage, sewage maintenance, I think is what it's called. I don't know.
Yeah, all these harder jobs that I think pay well, or at least they pay okay. Men handle those jobs. We don't complain about how there's very little, if not probably no, women in certain jobs that suck, and men are the ones having to do it. But then they complain about jobs that are, like they complain about jobs that that might be mostly men. They'll complain about that, but they won't complain about these other jobs that suck. That kind of suck.
And honestly, he did not really refute that claim very well. He just kept on repeating, there is a wage gap. There is a wage gap. Not providing really any information for it, just that. Like I was supposed to take his statement as fact all of a sudden.
Yeah. He thinks that there's a patriarchy. It's like, it's not as if, you just see someone, like some evil oppressor just puts a glove over your mouth and just takes away your human rights. It's not that easy. I kind of like how this looks, with the gloves and the glasses and this shit.
And I do not think he listened to me when I got talking about public breastfeeding.
To me, I think that should be just done public. Well, I don't think it's the crime of the century.
Yeah, I don't think there should be any legislation taken either way on the issue, be it local, state, or federal. Definitely not federal.
Yeah. The thing I didn't get with this looks like a witch hat. The thing I didn't get with I side with War Corps on it. Like, don't breastfeed in public. I think it's just stupid. I think the biggest thing is don't breastfeed kids. Babies, they kind of need that because that's all they can have. But kids, if they're 8, 7, 8, 9 years old, they should be looking for milk in the fridge for their Fruit Loops.
Speaking of which, like, did you ever see that one video called Tuck Frump? That Tuck Frump video, where there was a whole bunch of fat people and ethnic, racial, and sexual minorities responding to Trump, making the most cringiest, overly simplistic arguments against him. And one of them was a mother who was breastfeeding. And I was thinking to myself, how old is your kid there? Is he 3 years old and he's still wearing a diaper and sucking off your tits? Like, what the fuck? Like,
to me, yeah, I mean, like,
it wasn't so cringy the fact that she was just showing the very top part of her breast. What was so cringy was the fact that she was having a child so old feeding on her.
To me, I think the cutoff needs to be 18 months. If there's a medical issue, 2 years and then fuck them, you're off for good. But I don't think there should be any laws. Like, I think it would probably be closer to child abuse if they're like 7, 8, 9 years old and they're still doing that shit. Then yeah, that kid's gonna be a weird fucker when they grow up, if they ever do, you know. But yeah,
although there are honestly breastfeeding fetishes out there. I've heard at least like grown men, other like non-related females that they just have a sexual attraction to. They literally have that fetish.
I will never understand people like that. I don't think I'll ever understand people like that at all. I mean, that is just a bit creepy and a bit fucked up, but that's just me, of course. All right.
Yeah, the transgender issue, that was pretty much a draw. Abortion, I kind of think that I did that pretty well. Like, he was just really itching to want to get out of that debate. And there was the point that I also made. There's the point that he made at first, that he thinks that the issue of abortion should not be made based on people's views of what life is. And I made the comment to him, I bet that's what serial killers think too. And he could not really refute that. So because of that and a whole bunch of other things, I kind of think that the issue of abortion leans more towards me than him. Capitalism, I was really frazzled, and I think that leans more towards him. You think that it leans more towards me, but based on
how you guys presented, I felt like maybe this should have been done. The debate should have been carried out under different circumstances. Like, perhaps. Like, honestly, I mean, I agreed with you guys on different things. So to be honest, it would have been awesome to moderate. So you guys wouldn't. So like, I don't really think you guys cut each other off.
Yeah, we didn't hardly cut off. Although I did want to like intervene into his statements. Like, that's the most annoying thing about Owen. And during the whole debate in particular, he would ask a question, then he would ramble on for 2 to 5, 10 minutes right afterwards, not giving me a chance to respond. And I would just lose my train of thought, and I'll completely forget the question that he was originally asking that I wanted to answer. And I would ask, hey, can I interject? And he was like, hey, can I finish my point now?
He wouldn't give me the same consideration. Like, he would just, where I'm like, dude, can I finish my point? Can I just interject? It's like, no. Either I can do the same, or you can get fucked, Owen.
And on the fourth issue, feminism, I think that I won that mostly on the point of the gender wage gap. And I just love how I triggered one of his fans in the chat. I was all like, on the issue of catcalling, I said, it may be rude, but I think women should get a thicker skin. And one of his fans in the chat was all like, women should get a thicker skin. It's more complicated than that. No, my face is so animated, it just makes you laugh out loud.
No, the way you said that. Oh god. Oh, tasteless opinion is in. It wasn't. He commented on it on the debate.
Oh yeah, okay,
yeah. And Tom
I
L.
think Tom would have handled the transgenders versus jokes subject a lot better. I mean, just by looking at his comments. Sorry, what did you say? What were you about to say?
Tom L. is like, good work to both. Zack should have more strongly jumped on the fallacies in Owen's arguments, but he doesn't explain, which is a bit weird. I think Owen tried. I'm not sure if this is a logical fallacy, but it seemed like he tried to overrun you with points, so you wouldn't be able to address them all. So he wouldn't have to be more willing to
It's not necessarily a
him.
logical fallacy, I'll
It just
say.
doesn't look good for him to do
And
that.
I would be kind of babyish if I was to say it's an unfair debating tactic, but at least it is a kind of an unproductive debating tactic. I mean, unless we wanted to spend like 10 hours debating each other, which obviously he certainly did not, because it was past midnight by the time of the end of that debate, and it would have brought on past midnight for me as well if I had gone that long.
Yeah, I was surprised that we even went. Like, we started debating, I think, 3 p.m. my time, which would be, I think, 10 o'clock his time. And we debated for nearly 4 hours, so it was like getting close to 7 o'clock my time. It'd be 2 in the morning his time. You know, I mean, it'd be kind of cool if we lived in around our time zone, so we could, he wouldn't have to spend it wouldn't be getting so close to the next day or whatever. I feel like maybe we've covered the debates pretty well. If you want to get onto the religion thing, if that's fine with you.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay, I guess with opening statements on the religion thing. Now, if you want to just, because let me check the timer just to see how long we've been going. Out of curiosity.
I think we've been going on for about 1 hour, 50 minutes, probably 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I have no issue with it. So I guess if you want to put religion discussion highlights, like our first discussion with abortion, I guess what I'm going to start off with, there is no evidence to prove that there is a God or a higher power or an afterlife. There is nothing to show to the contrary. I believe the burden of proof falls on those who make the claim that there is a God or a higher power or just anything like that. If people want to believe that there's a higher power, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine as long as no one turns authoritarian, like they don't have an authoritarian stance. I think there's a difference between religious people and capital R religious people. Religious people, lowercase, they just believe they believe they believe there's a higher power, a God, an afterlife. That's fine. For those that, for instance, when they try to use that to dictate others' lives, like Kim Davis, when she wouldn't give gay couples the ability to get married. That, to me, is an authoritarian religious person. And there's a few things with God, and this is just a thing, that there's no evidence to prove that he exists. There's no evidence to suggest otherwise. There's no evidence to prove. I guess maybe evidence to show that he's not helping us at all. And this, again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to religious people. I'm not trying to pull a war corpse here.
No. You're far less of an asshole than War Corpse. I don't expect you to be as much of an asshole as him.
Yeah. One Bible verse where they say, man shall not lie with a man. I've heard, and I don't know how true this is, where they point out that this was lost in translation. Man shall not lie with small man, which would mean don't sleep with kids. And if that's true, then of course I have no issue with saying don't sleep with kids if that's in the Bible. Of
course, there are a few other moralities in the Bible that secularists would agree with. Like, I would think that, well, obviously secularists believe that murder is wrong, that lying is wrong, and I would hope that they would generally agree that adultery is wrong as well, like cheating on your spouse.
Yeah. Quick question to you, because I just popped in my head. One of you guys was playing with styrofoam in the debate. I don't know why you guys. One of you guys were, and that was distracting as hell, to be honest. But that's all I'd have to say there. I wasn't
playing with anything during the debate, styrofoam or otherwise. I mean, I kept on hearing it on his end.
Oh.
What are you unwrapping right now?
Pens. Blue, red, blue, green, and black. Cultural appropriation at its finest.
You're not going to do a lacy green on me and just keep on clicking your pen away, right?
Maybe I might. Like, I swear to God, if people kept doing that, it'd make me want to take the pen and shove it up their ass, because that gets annoying. Like, I've seen people use pens to fidget with, because I think maybe it just helps them cope or just to relax. That's fine. With people point out, oh, things in the Old Testament were fucked up, and then the New Testament was to correct the bad things in the old. The New Testament would be supposed to correct the old things, and the bad things in the Old Testament. Like, and people, and this goes with other religions. It's like, sure, people can, like, Christians are accused all the time of cherry picking verses that are good. Like, they'll follow those things, but then there's some verses that they will completely ignore. And you can also say this.
They will cherry pick to push their authoritarian beliefs, like you mentioned earlier.
They'll take it, like, some people will take a verse probably out of context. So,
one moment. If I can, like, find the mute button, if it'll pop up, damn it.
Can I just have the laundromat key?
Oh. Sorry, it's my sister. There it is.
That's cool. All right.
Sorry.
There's some verses where I don't really see anything wrong with. Like, there's a few that I don't really see any issue with, so I'm not going to comment on some of those. There was some people. I'm just looking at Google images of verses because, just out of curiosity. Jesus says again, he has not come to earth to bring peace, but fire and destruction and devastation, or division among families. Luke 12:49-54.
Fire and destruction.
Fire and destruction and division. That's what I'm seeing. Like, of course, people can argue, oh, you're just cherry picking bad Bible verses to beat on Christians, but I think, of course, like, I'll acknowledge there's some verses that I don't have a problem with, and then there's some where it's that I would say are maybe a bit fucked up, like that one I just read.
If I may respond to that verse, by the way.
Okay, go for it.
The interpretation that I've heard was, I have not come to bring peace but a sword, and division amongst the families and whatnot. But I don't know. Might be a bit of a different reading, like maybe you're reading NIV or something or other. I read KJV, King James Version. And the way that I read that verse, like, be it fire, destruction, or be it with a sword, I mean, either way, Jesus did not literally burn entire cities. I don't recall a verse saying where he burns entire cities. I do not recall a verse where he wielded a sword. He himself, if we was to take that verse literally, I do not recall any of that. So what I'm thinking is that he's being metaphorical with that. Like, he hasn't come to bring peace, but to bring a sword. In other words, there will be wars fought in his name and in his Father's name. And as we have seen, that was quite obvious. We saw the Crusades. That was Allah versus God, essentially, and their respective followers. And then, of course, these days you have multiple different denominations. You think that there should not be thousands and thousands of different denominations, and I will partially agree with that. And it has caused inner fightings with the church, with itself. And now you have some people that completely reject the idea of going to church because the church is so corrupt. There was a point in time that I just completely given up on going to church myself.
There's something I want to touch upon. Me and Owen were in a discussion on Joseph Live about something like this, about churches. Like, I think people, like Owen was saying about Jesus. I'm not trying to misquote him, but it was something about Jesus, and I said people think Jesus is a communist, and he says, well, let's say that were the case or something. I'm not trying to misquote him. He started talking about. It's like, if you look at churches today, some are just glorious, magnificent, divine structures. Like in my city, I can't remember what the hell it's called. It's some temple. It's a temple, like for Mormons. They of course read the Book of Mormon. Like for example, I find it utterly hypocritical for Pope Francis to pray for the poor when he's covered in things that probably cost a lot of money. Like he's surrounded in gold, and he'll pray for the poor and things like that. I think the Pope isn't supposed to do that. I might be incorrect. So
What, surround himself in riches or pray for the poor?
to surround himself in riches,
Okay.
surround himself in riches, even though I don't think he's supposed to do that, and then pray for the poor. I mean, if you want to pray for the poor, that's absolutely fine, but being covered in riches, even when I don't think that was supposed to be the case, I think it to be kind of hypocritical. I've even heard people argue that the Bible in the Old Testament, of course, Exodus.
Hey, if I can interject.
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead and interject.
There's a very quick point that I want to comment regarding Jesus's communism, and we talked about this in one of our past streams. And you said that you pretty much do not really care if Jesus was or was not a communist.
It wouldn't it wouldn't, like, let's say he was a communist. Let's just say, for the sake of the point, it wouldn't mean communism's the way to go. Like, at all. I don't think communism's the way to go. And I noticed in your debate with Owen, you guys briefly spoke on anarcho-communism, and he says he'd probably be closer to an anarcho-communist.
No, he said he'd be closer to a libertarian socialist rather than an anarcho-communist.
Isn't libertarian socialism... I'm not trying to, but, I've heard people argue libertarian socialism is oxymoronic. Anarcho-communism... Anarcho-communism is oxymoronic. I mean, if we look at those two definitions, so yeah. Go ahead, to me, even if people said Jesus was a capitalist, I couldn't care less, because it doesn't mean, just because someone is
right,
a communist or a socialist or a capitalist, that it wouldn't necessarily strengthen anything.
Well,
when people say when some people claim Hitler was an atheist, when I think he said God is good or something like that. I don't think that even it wouldn't mean, oh, Christianity's better, or any religion he may have been a part of was bad. I don't think that's I would consider unfair to people wouldn't accept oh, Jesus was a communist. Well, let's say Hitler was a religious person. I know this is probably a shit analogy, but anyway, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, you probably don't personally care. And it will not affect your own morality, what political ideology Jesus is closest to. But my thought is that maybe you ought to look into it, or both of us ought to look into it. And if Jesus actually was a capitalist, then you ought to correct other Christians on it, because it will not affect your own political ideology, but it will affect their political ideology. And if you want
Christian communism.
If you want as many libertarian capitalists out there in the world, and particularly here in the United States, I would encourage you as an atheist to try and make the case that he was a capitalist.
Yeah, if I can find evidence to show it, then I'll definitely talk to libertarian capitalists that are or just anyone who says that Jesus was a communist.
What I mean is try and convince liberal Christians to change their own political ideology.
Yeah,
if they're just basing their political ideology purely on that Jesus was a liberal or a communist or socialist or any of that, make the case against that. I mean,
yeah,
you are not a Christian, obviously.
Yeah,
but you are a capitalist.
Yeah, if we go with what works, I understand there's flaws with capitalism, and that's true. But people have never risked their lives to escape capitalist nations. Socialism, it's so good that people risk their lives to climb over 15-foot walls, risking getting shot. It's so good. They risk their lives to get away from it. And there's about 85 million to 100 million reasons to dislike communism, as that's how many people have died under communist regimes. And when people think Stalin was a good guy, look at the people he's killed. So when people call themselves a Stalinist, I think it's bullshit. And there's claims going around that Karl Marx is a rapist or something. Which, if that's true, then let's say that's true. Then can you imagine? It's like calling yourself a Hitlerist if Hitler had his own. If he was one of those people that had their own spins on economics. If he were to start his own version of socialism or communism, it'd be like calling yourself a Hitlerist. It's or in another comparison, it's like when the Young Turks, they call themselves the Young Turks. It's like calling yourself the Young Nazis. And I think it's Cenk Uygur who denies the existence of the Armenian genocide. but that's just me, of course. On those things, like I think he has said the Armenian genocide was not true. There's one thing people point out a lot, that God is good with slavery. People make this claim a lot, and I have a verse from the Old Testament and a few from the New Testament. This is the Old Testament. Go ahead.
A lot of people try to make the case that God was for slavery, like he would have been for like the international African slave trade and whatnot. The basis that I would say against that is that there was not a verse, or at least not by my memory anyways, where he said that people should carry out racial slavery, like the white man shall own the black man or whatever. But there are some verses in there that will say you as a servant should just fall under your own master. Like, at least the interpretations in my Bible is that it defines it's a servant and not slave. And so if we're merely talking about servants serving their masters, and that could like apply not just to slaves, but it could possibly also apply to like employees working for their managers.
Okay, I got a verse right here from the Old Testament. Exodus 21:20-21. When a man strikes his male or female slave with a rod so hard that the slave dies under his hand, he shall be punished. If, however, the slave survives for a day or two, he is not to be punished, since the slave is his own property. That's in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, under Ephesians, I probably mispronounced that, 6:5.
It's pronounced Ephesians, like
Ephesians, okay. Okay, I don't like to mispronounce stuff here. Slaves, obey your earthly masters with deep respect and fear. Serve them sincerely as you would serve Christ. All right, so there's from Ephesians 6:5, 1, Timothy 6:1-2. Christians who are slaves should give their masters full respect, so that the name of God and his teaching will not be shamed. If your master is a Christian, that is no excuse for being disrespectful. You should work all the harder because you are helping another believer by your efforts. Teach these truths, Timothy, and encourage everyone to obey them. That's from Timothy 6:1-2. This is to Luke 12:47-48. The servant will be severely punished for though he knew his duty, he refused to do it. But people who are not aware that they are doing wrong will be punished only lightly. Much is required from those whom much is given, and much more is required from those to whom much more is given. And then, and with those things, I've even heard some Bible verses that don't make some sense. Like, I can't remember some of them off the top of my head. One says you must love God, another says you must fear God, and another one says there's no fear in love. So there'd be some cognitive dissonance. So whenever people use the Bible to use for any argument, I would say maybe not the best one if you're trying to use it to justify anything.
Yeah, honestly, I'm trying to find my exact compass on the as far as the Bible and what it specifically says. Honestly, I probably would not be the ideal person to debate an atheist myself, because I'm not that very well read in verses, honestly. Well,
here's another thing when you think about it. I don't think the Bible mentions anything about lesbians. I think they've probably, like, in the thing where they say man shall not lie with another man, they don't say anything about a woman lying with another woman. So it would be, in my opinion, a double standard, because if the Bible has no issue with lesbians, but they would take an issue with gay men, I would say is utterly hypocritical. And I would say say to that.
Yeah, here's what I have to say to that. I mean, War Corpse brought up that Bible verse as well. And my question is, does that mean that the Constitution applies only to men because it uses male pronouns and not female pronouns?
It's also transphobic because it doesn't bring up non-binary pronouns. I'm kidding. Well, the thing is, I guess you could say that the Constitution was written primarily for men because unfortunately at the time women were seen as second-class citizens. I don't see the need necessarily to update the Constitution. I'm pretty sure people just completely they'll read that and they'll get, that was the thinking of the time. And I guess you can make the same argument for I guess you could use the same argument. Oh, well, that was just how it was at the time when people were like, why did slavery happen? Well, that's what they thought was okay at the time. And now that people look back and they say, wow, slavery was fucked up. Sorry, I just needed to put that stuff there. So I guess maybe you could use the same argument that it was just the thinking of the time. So maybe that could be an argument you could use there. I've seen these images on Google displaying these testaments, and I believe it's in full context. And this is the one where I got these Bible verses on slavery. It says, Christians, you didn't know that Christ did not speak out against slavery. Why would anyone in their right mind promote any institution which supports slavery? Christianity, this is the image saying it, not me. This is my words. Just want to let you know. Christianity, it says, is a danger to society because it teaches normally moral people to think or act in immoral ways. Christians, how do you explain away these immoral Bible verses? Like, I think there's one where if a woman gets raped, I think it'll cost you like some money. Like you can get married. She'd be required to marry her rapist. I'm probably mixed. You could be able to marry her. Like it says something about rape in the Bible.
Yeah, the old covenant laws regarding slavery and marriage, they're really confusing. And I would just like to point out that in Jeremiah 31:30, I think it was, either that or 30:31, like chapter 30, verse 31, or it was chapter 31, verse 30. And the 3 verses preceding that, it says that in God's words, that he'll be giving a new covenant, not just to the Jews, but to the Gentiles as well. Gentiles would be obviously non-Jews. So regarding the whole old covenant law, that would be a big time justification for like Jeremiah, that is in the Old Testament. But in the Old Testament, in that very verse I just cited to you, he's saying, I will give you a new covenant. And tying in Jesus' story with that very verse where Jesus says, until the Son of Man dies, I cannot remember the exact verse that I'm quoting here, but until the Son of Man dies, not one jot or tittle of the law shall be disobeyed, shall be broken, for lack of a better word. And but he has come to the earth and died for our sins. So you put 1 and 1 together, that makes 2. So that would give people the interpretation that the old covenant law does not apply anymore, because Jesus fulfilled that law. Like that's the philosophical reasoning for why people no longer have to make animal sacrifices to atone for their sin, because Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice for everyone.
I think
he was your sacrifice, he was my sacrifice, he was everyone's sacrifice.
Didn't he? Okay, let me ask you about this statement, and let's see what your response is. I know Vegan Gain said it, but he did have a point here. He's made some religious videos if you ever want to take a look at those. If you ever want to respond to them. All right, so he says, because he showed some Bible verses, and he says basically Jesus or God. I think he may have said Jesus and then God another time. Sacrificed himself. It was Jesus sacrificed himself to make up for sins for which he created. And for me, I don't see why one would want to sacrifice himself for the sins of others. I wouldn't sacrifice myself for the sins of others. And to me, and here's the thing. I think it's when people say, "Oh, you're going to go to hell for being gay," even though they don't cite what verse says that. And if a verse did say that, why would God condemn someone to hell for certain things they do, like punish them for all eternity? As I believe there should be a statute of limitations for or at least a limit for how much you're going to punish someone for. There's a Bible verse which punishing the rape victim, it's not just for Sharia anymore. Deuteronomy. I'm probably mispronouncing that. If I did, let me
It's
know.
Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy. I suck with pronouncing certain things, just so you know. 22, 23 to 24. If there is a betrothed virgin and a man meets her in the city and lies with her, rapes her basically, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and you shall stone them to death with stones the young woman, because she did not cry for help, though she was in the city, and the man because he violated his neighbor's wife. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. I'm not trying to, and this is repeated a number of times in the Bible, not the Bible. People cite those as some victims of rape are being blamed with that Bible verse. Okay, and it says the same thing,
Right.
forcing a victim to marry a rapist, Deuteronomy 22, 23, 24, 22, 23 to 24. Killing homosexuals, Leviticus 20:13. Burning anyone to death who fornicates, Leviticus 21:9. Stoning people to death for blasphemy, Leviticus 24:10 to 16. And endorsing slavery, Leviticus 25:44 to 46. So,
yeah, and quickly on the whole stoning point, Jesus, I really wish I could remember the exact very verse that I am saying these from, but Jesus says, "He who is without sin cast the first stone," and so basically by that logic, because none of us are without sin, we do not have the right to punish people purely just because it is a sin, a religious sin.
And then people, they say to religious people, read your Bible. I know you made a video about some atheist who was able to trigger feminists and Christians.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, it was a pretty funny video in my opinion. Okay, so there's some more. Sell daughters as slave wife, Exodus 21:7 or 11. Punish rape victims, Deuteronomy 22, 23 to 24 / 28, 29. I think we already covered that part. Beat women, Deuteronomy 22:13 to 21 / 23 to 24, and Exodus 21:20 to 21. So there's of course a lot of messed up things in the Bible, and of course, like, you know, when people say they follow the Bible, you know, like there's people who proudly say they follow the Bible, and I'm not trying to say that's you. I'm not trying to like say Zack Edwards does X, therefore Zack Edwards.
No, I get you. Just
okay, like I don't want to like make any generalizations about Christians or anything, because that'd of course be unfair. So when people say they follow the Bible, and if you ask them, all right, do you follow these verses? And if they say no, it's being hypocritical and a double standard. Now, and I'm not taking these verses out of context. These are full verses, and people honestly, these like for example, people say Leviticus 20:13, thou shalt not kill. But then Exodus 22:17 says kill witches, which there's no such thing as witches. Leviticus 20:13 then says kill homosexuals. Leviticus 20:27 says kill fortune tellers. What the hell?
Right. And I would revert back to the whole Jesus, what he said about stoning and killing people for their sins, executing people.
I don't get why these verses are here then if he's saying that. Because it's like having a death penalty law and then saying, well, we shouldn't do it. Like if you abolish like I know this is maybe not a good analogy. Like
a lot of the verses that you are quoting are from the Old Testament, and you have to keep in mind that back in those ancient times, that basically the Hebrews of old were God's chosen people, and because they were His chosen people, He was gonna bless them with land and riches and strategic superiority, I guess, whenever they go fight in wars. But in a trade, they would have to all follow a very strict law. So I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm going to be quite honest.
I'm not either. Don't worry about that.
But that's my that's how I see regarding the stoning of people for this, that, and the other thing. And my only guess for why he says stone homosexuals back then, for the Jews to be a superior society back then, for the Hebrews, he wants them to continue reproducing. And how can homosexuals reproduce? This kind of reverts back to my Cult of Dusty response video where I said gay people don't need to have sex. And so the only reason for why I say that God put down that law for people to be punished for their homosexuality is because for that reason. And obviously there's a lot of good advice in the Old Testament. I mean, the punishment for it, that might be too harsh, but don't eat pork. I mean, pigs really are like one of the least healthiest animals to eat out there. I mean, why not eat chicken instead or something like that?
Oh God, this reminds me of people like some vegans are gonna be like, you're eating meat overall. People. Okay, there's a few New Testament contradictions. However, I mean, this is just a bit odd. But anyway, look, I don't think homosexuals should be punished whatsoever as two guys deciding to
I don't think so either.
Okay, well,
and as far as whether it's a sin, like I said again, I hope it's not.
Even if it was a sin, I think if I were gay and I were to go to hell for it, so be it. I don't think it, like when people say, I'm praying for you, hopefully you see the light. I don't see why those people should care. It's other people's sin. It's not yours, and it doesn't affect anybody. That's just me. I'm not saying that's your case.
Can't you see that other people would have empathy for other people and their own salvation? Like, really? I mean, actually it is for in my case. And prior to this, I might even say a prayer over you, because I'm not trying to cast judgment and say that you're definitely going to hell. I'm not trying to say that anyone is definitely going to hell, but there is a little bit of a concern. Owen is in the chat. I'll read that right afterwards. But there is the empathetic concern regarding it, because nobody really wants anyone to go to hell.
Okay, I'm just going to read what he's saying because I like this. How do you decide which parts of the Bible to follow and which parts you ignore, Zach? And to Owen, this is really so far a discussion. If Jay, it would be if we ever have a 2-on-2 debate.
Cut out for a little bit. You might want to repeat your last statement.
All right, to Owen and JJ, if you guys ever want to, maybe me and Zach, like it's me and Owen versus you and JJ, like a 2-on-2 debate, atheism versus Christianity, and the Bible verses, like we'd have a conversation, and it'd be about whether or not there's a God. Now, to decide, and maybe go ahead and answer Owen's criticism.
I want to answer that question to you right now here in a bit.
That's your mic amplified like hell, and that scared the absolute shit out of me.
Sorry.
Right.
How do you decide which parts of the Bible to follow and which parts you ignore, Zach? Well, the question is, what Bible verses is it that God or Jesus? Oh, okay, that's you. Which parts of the Bible, which verses does God or Jesus say that they are fulfilling a part of a past law, or saying that that past law does not apply to which people or applies at all, is what I have to answer to that. Like, for example, a little earlier I told S-Man, for example, like in the old law, you're supposed to stone people for X, Y, and Z sin. But then later on you read, when Jesus comes around, he says, he who is without sin casts the first stone. In other words, we are all not without sin. There is not one person who is without sin. So therefore, we do not have the right to execute each other for our own sins, whatever might be viewed as a sin.
Well, if that's the case, I'd have to ask you then, why not just get rid of those verses that say we can do it? And then if we're going to follow the one that says he who has, since we can't kill each other over each other's sin, then why not just get rid of the verses that say we can? It's a bit of a, I would say a bit of a contradiction in that. And
what?
What you said,
we can?
like the verses that say we would do that, like that we can do it. If there's one that says this is a bit of a contradiction with the Old Testament there. If we go with you can, like, for instance, don't he who has no sin can cast the first stone. If none of us have, like, of course, like you said, since none of us have not sinned, then we can't throw the stone at anyone. Hold on. So why not get rid of the verses that say that we could, like, just completely get rid of them, since they're not going to be enforced at all. And Owen did, and you wouldn't follow, like, I do find it a bit hypocritical for those who would say they would follow, of course, follow the Bible. Like, if you, okay, hold on, Owen says something. Jesus essentially told people to disregard the Old Testament, yet the Old Testament is still taught and read, and the Psalms, I probably mispronounced that, but whatever, within it are still followed by many in the church. All right, that's true. And
Okay, and you asked the question, why is the Old Testament in the Bible at all? Was that the proper wording for your question?
No, it was why not? Why are those verses that would say that we could stone those people for their sins? I'm not trying to misquote you or anything. Why have them there still if we have one that says, he who has the first sin, he who has not sinned can cast the first stone, and if none of us have not sinned, then we can't throw the first stone or whatever. Then why have those verses there if they're not going to? It would seem a bit of a contradiction. Just like when there's verses in the Bible.
Respond to that.
Actually, I don't want to overrun you with statements. Go for it. Is your webcam on? Because
my webcam is on. Why?
All right, it's just showing your profile picture. I was just like, oh, I don't know. I'm looking at the stream, and it shows your webcam is on. So, all right.
Okay. So as far as why do we have the Old Testament verses in at all? Well, if we did not have the Old Testament verses mentioned at all, then it would almost look like that the church was trying to hide something. And on that basis, the book of Enoch is not considered in the Bible as well. And I will have to admit that does seem kind of odd. Now, as far as which verses are followed, and actually, why is it that the modern day church teaches a lot of, or preaches a lot of Old Testament verses as a verse of morality, that we should follow them? I will agree with Owen that is wrong. And as far as this, God saying this law applies for back in the old days, and now there's this one that applies for in these days, you have to also keep in mind that there are a lot of human-made laws, like government laws, that are made, that some of them supersede other laws. I mean, for example, the United States Constitution. Like, you have the freedom of speech provided in the First Amendment, but then I cannot remember which amendment it is, that says that you have the right to private property. So in other words, those laws, those amendments in the Constitution, they come in conflict with each other, but that does not explicitly mean that there is like a contradiction or hypocrisy or what will have you.
Hold on.
It becomes a bit of a jaded issue when laws conflict with each other.
Yeah, that's why I think, of course, when laws do come in conflict with one another, they should, of course, be reviewed and decide the pros and cons of each one, and whichever one has more pros than cons, I think, should stay, if it benefits the public. Now, Owen just left 3 comments in the chat. I'm going to read them out. Jesus essentially told people that, I already read that part. The Bible is the word of God conveyed. God is omnibenevolent and omnipotent and all, yet supposedly wrote things we know to be wrong. If God is wrong, can he be all-powerful? Can he be, I think he meant to put, can he be all good if his word was to stone people for things we know aren't bad? If seeing his son, Jesus contradicts half of what he said later on. Now, in the New Testament, like
I said a little bit earlier, there are some laws that supersede other laws. Not necessarily a contradiction, but basically Jesus is saying that there is a new law now. This one is to be followed.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Bible rewritten? It's been revised or rewritten an innumerable amount of times. We don't really have an original copy by different people with, of course, different things. And we already touched upon earlier about how I think the pagans, again, I might be wrong here, but I think it was actually the pagans who defined marriage instead of like Christians, of course. Now, there's a few contradictions that people pointed out in the New Testament. Jesus says all men will be saved, John 3:17. And then John 12:40 says God does not want all men to be saved. Then in Revelation 14:1-4, only 144,000 virgin men will be saved. Revelation 14:1-4. And then Timothy 1 Timothy 2:3-4 and 2 Peter 3-9 says God wants all men to be saved.
By the way, a little bit of information on how to quote the Bible. Like when you see 1 Peter, it's pronounced as 1 Peter, and 2 Peter is 2 Peter.
I take
it that you. Sorry, I'm not mean to be like rude or arrogant or anything, but you haven't read the Bible a whole lot in your entire life, have you, S-Man?
I have read I've read of course parts of it. The things I don't try to cherry pick at all. I just focus on what it says. I'll read the verse out and okay, I'm assuming 1 Timothy is what I probably should have said, and 2 Peter. I'll keep that in mind. Owen writes in the chat, if Owen wants to have a 2-on-2 debate, he can. It'd be me and him versus you and JJ. Hopefully that can be a thing. So the Bible isn't the word of God. It's the views of the prophets who wrote it. That's what he wrote. I guess. So I'm gonna let Zach. No, you go ahead. You were gonna go first.
Okay. As far as the Bible goes and humans writing it, excuse me.
You're fine.
I'm starting to get burnt here. I might want to end the live stream here shortly. But you hear constantly, actually I've heard it constantly anyways, that the word that the Bible is the word of God. It's just through people's writings. And as far as it's the views of the prophets who wrote it, I will give it to him that he has a little bit of a point, because I cannot remember the name of the council for the life of me. But way back before 1000 AD, like when the Dark Ages was coming around, the Catholic Church had a council that would determine which books are to be in the Bible. And so it is kind of odd. Our job is to try and interpret the best of our ability what is really true, what is true and is out of the mouth of God and Jesus, and is not just merely a human's messed up interpretation or translation, because really some words have got lost in translation, if I'm to be quite honest. Like, we have the Bible translated, the scriptures translated from Greek and Latin to English. There are some words from the Latin and the Greek languages that cannot be translated to English.
Then quite frankly, if things are like when things are lost in translation, it just makes the process all the more complicated. And
I want to answer Owen's question here very quickly. So, have the people who wrote the Bible misconstrued God's messages, or was God the one who intended to write many of the awful things written in the Bible, some where there are questionable morality? I will just give you the benefit of the doubt in that and say it is possible that really people have misconstrued God's own word. Like I just mentioned there, the translations and the possibly highly inaccurate translations from Latin and Greek to English. But Owen, you're like wasting every single breath in the chat here. I kind of think that it would be best once we have the actual live stream debate. Me and JJ versus you and S-Man with the Joseman moderating.
Moderating. Yeah, because like here's the thing, like with me and Owen, we did cut each other off a lot in the last debate. And to Owen, I didn't mean to do that, but I think me and Zach already hashed out that earlier in the beginning of this. So yeah, I think
he says fair enough.
That's what he said?
Thank you, Owen. Yeah, he said fair enough. I guess to what I said.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Owen.
All right. He is kind of cool dude, to be honest. Okay, so there's also other things about the New Testament. There's some contradictions, and they say no wonder Christians are so confused. That's not my words; it's theirs. Non-believers obtain mercy. Romans 11.
Hey, I want to emphasize on that. Yes, I am confused. I'm a Christian, and I am confused.
Okay, well, these are just some things I noticed. Romans 11:32. Non-believers obtain mercy. Romans 11:32. Not only believers obtain mercy. John 3:36. Romans 14:23. Only baptized believers obtain mercy. Mark 16:16. Mercy cannot be predetermined. Romans 9:18. Repentance is necessary. Acts 3:19. Luke 3:3. Repentance is not necessary. Romans 11:29. Jesus said he would not cast aside any that come to him. John 6:37 or dash 37.
Hey, I think
However,
one of your fan. I think one of your fans is. I think one of your fans, maybe a couple of your fans, is in the chat right now. There's somebody named Ocom's Router and another guy who is naming himself after the Orlando shooter, Omar Mateen. Ocom says Saul, meaning Saul of Tarsus, account of his conversion was legally impossible. Everything about Christianity hinges on the writings accredited to Paul. It's a fable.
Omar
And again,
Mateen.
a lot of these points of debate.
Islam is the way. No, it's not. Not even. No, just no.
Your
But that's
religion is wrong. Islam is the way. I think the guy is just trolling us.
Yeah, I think he's trolling.
Omar Mateen,
Islam's a rapist death cult, and that's another conversation for another time because it's a whole different religion. Anyway, I was just reading.
Let's try not to touch on it. Let's just
Islam at
try
the
not
moment.
to touch on Islam. Well, I'm meaning like when we get to debating, like me and JJ versus you and Owen, because obviously both you and Owen agree entirely that that none of the religions are right, that no religion is right, that there really is no God.
Yeah,
But here's one thing that I guess it's kind of assumptuous for me to say, but my only guess is that really you think that Christianity is better than Islam. He thinks that Christianity and Islam are equal, and then me and JJ will obviously think Christianity is better than Islam, and so it will be a 3-on-1 debate if we get into Islam. So when we get into that debate, strictly Christianity versus atheism.
Yeah, I think that's where it should go with that. All right, so I was just all right. Jesus said he would not cast aside anyone that comes to him. John 6:37. Jesus said that many that come to him will be cast aside. Matthew 7:21-23. The righteous have eternal life. Matthew 25:46. The righteous are barely saved. 1 Peter 4:18. And then there are no righteous. Romans 3:10. That's in the New Testament. And if anyone can prove to me that these verses have been taken out of context or cherry picked or strawmanned or whatever, what have you, if you can show me that, then I'll stop using those ones in particular.
There are two more points that I kind of want to address before we end this stream, but I think it would be best if we was to end it soon because I just got invited to dinner by my dad, and then right after that, I think my friends are going to have another hangout, even though just yesterday we did that. But regarding slavery, Galatians 5:1, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. So what's that tell you? I mean, the way that I interpret that verse, it seems to refer to slavery. In other words, that slavery is wrong. You mentioned all the verses about slavery, and slavery might have been very well justified under the old law, but under the new law, as Jesus is just citing to us right here, slavery is wrong.
I believe
Owen says we'll have to watch the previous part of the video then if you analyzed your debates with me.
That's kind of what we did. Owen pointed out when me and him were in a stream on Joseph Live, he pointed out I believe he said, I'm not trying to like misquote him, but I think he said that the New Testament was to, I think, make up for the bad actions of the New Testament to make up for the bad actions of the Old Testament. Is that what you said, Owen? Because I think that's how he put it, and I think he's probably correct there. Occam's Router. Paul was a Roman
provincial.
Provincial.
In other words, he wasn't really a citizen, but he was a citizen of a province of
provincial citizen of Judea, and the highest priest would not have authority to task Saul with arresting religious activists in a completely different Roman province of Syria, especially given the political climate when the time frame of the epistles were dated. Omar Mateen, I don't think he's a fan of mine. Occam's router, I have no idea if he is a fan of mine.
Well, he was
probably not.
He was on the debate, or he was in the chat of the debate you and Owen just recently had.
Yeah, I think he's probably a fan. He is probably a fan of Owen. Okay, Jesus essentially wanted to ignore the vast majority of the Old Testament, as he saw both the scripture and those who preached it as corrupt and perverting God's name. So yeah, kind of right, S-Man. Okay, and then Owen and I were talking. Yeah,
with those last 2 lines from Owen.
Yeah, and then Owen said something about whether or not Jesus was a communist, and he started pointing out certain things. Then he pointed out the Pope and all these religious structures. I'm not fans in these parts, winky face. Bruh, you got like 330 subs. I beg to differ. I'm about to break 200, so I can say I have some fans. And with, I think Owen pointed out, and I do like some of Owen's content. I would love to see him make a video about like a religion or veganism, but Vegan Gains would rip him a new one probably. Anyway, with the thing I think Owen pointed out was, I think Jesus, I think he was trying to make the claim, or at least we were discussing whether or not Jesus was a communist, and he said something about, if you look at some religious structures, like churches and temples and all that sort of stuff, they look magnificent and they look beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, they look beautiful. And I can't remember how exactly he was saying it, but that it would be that that's probably something Jesus would not have wanted. And I think maybe I think that's what he said. I ain't trying to like misquote him or anything.
Okay.
That's how, yeah. But to Owen, that's how I know you're the real Owen, because you always leave a little wink emoji on your comment, so I know that's truly you. I feel like, yeah, I feel like that's probably where I mean, I could go on because there's more verses that may seem a bit
right.
They seem to contradict each other. Steve Shives has also made a video called 5 Stupid Things About the New Testament. If you want to respond to him there, you can go for it.
I probably would.
Yeah, and there's a quote from Clinton Richard Dawkins. I'm going to read it out right here. The Bible, he says, I quote, "The Bible is a terrible moral compass if you think about it. Of course, you can cherry pick the verses you like, which means the verses that happen to coincide with our modern secular consensus. But then you need to have rationale for leaving out the ones that say stone people to death if they break the Sabbath, or if they commit adultery. It's an appalling moral compass." That is what Clinton Richard Dawkins once said. That's a quote from him.
Or not a daughter, I guess a son of Richard Dawkins.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, what he said. Are you all right, by the way?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just getting fried right now. Like, we started off in the first half of this debate with a full swing. Like, JJ and Joseman, they were joking and we were laughing and we were talking about our debates with Owen. And now we're getting on the topic of religion. It's just burning me out, honestly. We're about to go on for 3 hours.
It says 3 hours in the description.
We're gonna wrap it up.
I think we have been
a little bit, but
yeah.
One last point. So at the end of Jozo Live number 30, was it? But
it was the one after the. Was it the one after the debate with Owen? Is that one you're referencing?
Yeah, it was like in the same evening that you had with Owen.
Oh, then I think you're referencing the right one. After the debate, Owen. How do I get in contact with Joe Adams, Owen? Because if I can get in contact with him, because maybe a debate would, I'd be willing to debate that guy. And then Owen, I brought up atheism versus religion, and he says, and he wasn't being rude or anything. He's like, I don't know how he's gonna pull it off. Like he sounded genuinely interested. So, yeah, hopefully at some point.
I'm gonna pull it off.
Like how you would prove that there's a God, or I think this is mostly going to be if the 2-on-2 debate ever happens. Okay. I think it would be Christianity, and I think it'd have to be you and JJ attempting to justify now I think the teachings of the Bible and what the Bible and certain things they say. And if that debate happens, I'm going to be bringing a full list of verses I have an issue with, or that might contradict one another, or that might like whether they're Old or New Testament. they might have said some horrible things. I think Owen might do the same.
JJ in the last stream that we had you on, you were all like, I think I'm going to do some religious videos, and he was all like, no, don't talk about Christianity. And I almost wanted to say, I was thinking in my head, JJ, don't be a little snowflake. Let him talk about religion if he wants to.
Yeah, and if you and JJ don't agree with me, you guys can of course make a response to me.
I probably would.
Like you that would be interesting. You did ask me some questions in like one of your videos, and I'm gonna actually, when I break 200 subscribers, I'm going to actually answer some of your questions in one of your videos. It was just talking about when our first abortion discussion was going to take place. But let me just keep seeing notifications pop up. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last thing that I want to say.
Go for it.
Like I said, when I was building up to this statement, and I was referencing to Thursday's Jozo Live that you were on there briefly, and you said to him, I like Zack Edwards, but I don't think he can prove a God. And by the way, I appreciate
I'm not. Yeah, like of course I don't mean that with any disrespect. Like
no.
Yeah,
of course
yeah,
not.
yeah. For example, I like Owen. You know, he's a cool dude, but I don't think I think he failed utterly to justify feminism or to attack the death penalty. And I think he utterly failed to prove that I'm transphobic. Like that's the analogy I'm using. But yeah.
As I was saying, despite we might have our little disagreements, I think all in all, on the outset of things, you and I agree on more than 60% of the issues. Yeah. But anyway, you mentioned in that debate, in that conversation with Joseman, that I wouldn't be able to prove the existence of God. And so I was just listening to it very briefly. And my stance is, okay, to give some background to this, I could either take the Eric Hovind approach to this question or the John Lennox approach to this question. Like, either I could be like Eric Hovind and give you a big word salad non-answer that just goes over people's heads and completely doesn't answer the question, or I could be like John Lennox and just say, I don't know. Because, and I'm going to take the John Lennox approach. Yes, the ultimate answer is, I don't know. I cannot prove the existence of God.
I think there's some people who they think they know there's a God and they believe in God. And then there's some who believe in a God, but they don't know if he exists. And then there's some atheists who don't think there's a God, but they don't know, like an agnostic atheist. I don't know if Owen's agnostic atheist or just atheist. I'm just an atheist. And of course, me and him do agree. Like at the end of the day, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm not trying to change your mind and turn you atheist. If you turn atheist on your own, that's absolutely fine. If you I don't think there's anything bad with that. If you remain a Christian, that's absolutely fine. Things like that. I think the only topics you and I might not agree on is whether or not there's a God, whether or not the Bible can be defended. Quick question out of curiosity: do you think are you a creationist Christian or just a straight up Christian?
Mostly, I'm just a non-denominational Christian. As far as creationism goes, I haven't found my compass on evolution versus creationism. I mean, I think it's open that there really is a possibility, as far as what I know, that it really is open that maybe evolution can tie in with the Bible, because you hear all the time that coming from anti-theists that Christians, creationists, they believe that the earth was only 6,000 years old. I never thought that. I thought that it was at least 8,000 or 10,000 years old. But they hinge that bit of 6,000-year-old logic on Ken Ham citing the Bible. Like, I can't remember exactly where it is, but there's a point like in Genesis and in Exodus where it goes through the family tree all the way from Adam and Noah, leading up all the way to King David and Jesus. And because of that, they estimate of how long it took for them to beget this person, that it's about 6,000 years. But really, yeah. And the Christian blog that I read refuting Ken Ham on that is that begat doesn't mean directly begat, that it could mean that this one person could just be the grandchild or the great-grandchild of another person, but that one person begat that grandchild anyways, even though it wasn't direct, like his direct son, you know?
Yeah, and I'm going to touch up on something real quick. When people say the Earth is 6, 8, or 10,000 years old, there was dinosaur bones we found, and there's been things that, like dinosaurs, they went extinct 65 million or more years ago at this point, that would refute the idea that the Earth is 8 or 10,000 years old, because if it was 8 or 10,000 years ago, then we would be saying, well, okay, well, dinosaurs died off 6 to 8 to 10,000 years ago. Which, when people make the claim that the Earth is a couple thousand, I wish they would pick a straight up number, because I hear people say 6,000, 8,000, 10,000. I wish they just choose a number if they're going to make the claim. And I believe that I could just cite dinosaurs to disprove the idea that the Earth is 6 to 10,000 years old. I'm just gonna say 10,000 from this point forward, but I think that you could just cite the dinosaurs very easily, as we have dinosaur bones that show that they're millions of years old.
65 million.
Yeah, 65 million years old. So, to creationists, they would pretty much. I think that would be they'd eat their I think evolutionists would eat their lunch. There you go. I remember you said that. And I was like, interesting term there.
The approach that some people would have towards that is that carbon dating is flawed. That's their biggest approach to it. Like, really, I have to rewatch. I guess I have to watch Potholer 54's videos regarding evolution to learn the mainstay of it. But even if like evolution does ultimately turn out to be true, it does not affect. I do not think the fact, if it does turn out to be a complete and utter fact that we all evolved, that really will affect, that will be fuel to add to the fire of somebody's ideology to take away people's liberty. I mean, climate change is a little bit of a different issue. I kind of think that will fuel people's wants and desires to ban this oil drilling or that fracking or anything else. But evolution does not add the fuel to the fire of taking away people's liberty too. Go ahead and drill oil or any of that.
I'm gonna have to rewatch because I've only seen 20 minutes of it, because when they streamed the debate, Bill Nye versus Ken Ham, they had a 20-minute filler where it was just saying this debate will start in 20 minutes, which was just really annoying, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
As for like, because I saw him just cite Bible verses, and it's like, that's it. Like, I've already demonstrated earlier, maybe the Bible is not the best source for information. Like I know there's atheist pro-lifers, but I don't think, like if you're a religious pro-lifer, again, I don't think the Bible's the best source, because I can't remember the verses off the top of my head. You got one that says you must love God, you must fear God. There's no fear in love, and I think it's oxymoronic to have fear and love. So, of contradictions in those verses, I would say. Maybe, of course, like I personally wouldn't cite the Bible as a source if I were to attempt to justify Christianity. Just like if I were trying to justify Islam, I probably the Holy Quran is, of course, the wrong way to go about it. I don't really have much else to say on this. As always, it's fun. It's fun to chat with you. Especially the last time you and I were on one of your streams. Fried chicken and watermelon. Need to make that a hashtag.
Big classic. But
need to make that a hashtag.
Yeah, I'm gonna get off here, and I'll just say this: God bless you, Westman, and have a nice day.
You too, man. Have a good one.
Stopping broadcasting.